Like, I don't think that they can say, hey, we're planning to take a quarterback. I also didn't walk away from that thinking that they're going to take a quarterback because I don't think that they know. Like, I don't think that they know if quarterback goes 1, 2, 3, 4, then they're porked. Like, there's no way they can take a quarterback with the 11th pick. Here's what I took away. I think they like Will Levis. And there were multiple answers that came up today that I kept hearing and thinking, that's a Will Levis thing. You know, he was asked, Ian, I don't know if we have it or not, but he was asked about trying to evaluate quarterbacks. You know, college is really janky, you know, with these offenses. Tennessee's offense is not a college offense. So what Hendon Hooker runs is not a college offense. Ohio State is not, it's not a pro-style offense. What Ohio State runs, what Florida runs, and Billy Napier's a little bit more of a pro-style offense, but it's still not really a pro-style offense. So these guys have to evaluate it, and Rand Carthon talked about being able to take away what those guys can do. Here's what he said.
And then when you're watching the film, like you take a guy like Levis who has 23 interceptions over the last 2 years. Like, how do you go about, okay, what's the reason for this? How did that happen? Like, how do you weigh in, you know, factors with those type of things?
Those things you got to, you know, you have to have an understanding of what they're trying to do offensively. It could have been a million things that could have happened that could have led to those turnovers. You don't want to always, you know, charge that one person with said turnover. However, you got to work through it. And then when you get your hands on the player, like, hey, let's talk through these situations and what happened here and hear their explanation for it.
And so he later talked about the fact that, you know, well, trying to evaluate these college quarterbacks and everything else, it's what are the takeaways? Like, what can I see on the tape that they can do in the NFL?
But isn't that applicable to every of these quarterbacks?
No, they don't run your system. Will Levis runs your system. Like, so everything that Will Levis did in college, you can say, okay, he can do what you ask him to do in the NFL. And I don't know how much that matters, right? Like, Cliff Kingsbury runs a college offense, and that's why it didn't work with Kyler in Arizona, because it's not a pro-style offense. And Andy Reid is not running what Cliff runs. And it didn't matter to Andy because he saw enough from Mahomes to say, okay, this is what you can run for us, and then we'll teach you and all of that. But I think that what Rand Carthon, he kept talking about when it came to quarterbacks, what they take away. You know, what he takes away. And it was all about what they can do, trying to use, you know, what he sees on the tape and what they can do. And to me, it was Levis. And I kept writing in my notes, Levis. And then he was asked about the mayonnaise in the coffee. And I found this to be fascinating because I don't give a rat's ass about.
I'm so sick of the mayonnaise in the coffee.
I don't care about that.
And the banana. I don't care about the banana.
I truly do not care about any of that. But I wondered, like, you know, is Rand going to show a little bit here about Levis's personality or, yeah, you know, we joked with him about. And I mean, Rand Carthon ran so far away from that question. He said he saw it. And then he said, you know, but I don't even like the taste of coffee, so I can't imagine that. Next one. And it was like he doesn't want to talk Levis. I think because he doesn't want to say anything about Levis at all, one way or another. I'm not saying I like Levis by any stretch of the imagination here, though I think I like him more than all of you like him. I think they like Levis. That's just the vibe I get.
But you thought that they liked Will Levis last week.
I did think that they liked Will Levis last week. But
so what about today changed that?
So when I asked him about C.J. Stroud, and he said that Vrabel and Tim Kelly met with him, and so it was almost like, well, yeah, we didn't have him in the building, but Vrabel and Tim Kelly sat down with him for however long they sat down with him. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if you mess this pick up, right, you're Rand Carthon. Uh-huh. If you mess this pick up, let's say you trade up to 6 and you draft C.J. Stroud because he falls because he had a bad S2 score, supposedly, reportedly. Let's say that you do that, and C.J. Stroud doesn't work out. What happens to you, Rand Carthon?
You get fired.
You're fired. So all of a sudden, you're going to take that risk on a guy that Vrabel and Tim Kelly give you the thumbs up on?
Well, it doesn't have to be a binary choice between C.J. Stroud and Will Levis. I would agree with you that that's a very fair assessment that if Rand Carthon didn't meet with him himself after Rand Carthon kept emphasizing the importance of sitting them down, talking with them, learning the guy, learning what kind of person they are off the field, then I would agree that probably is not going to be the pick of C.J. Stroud if Rand Carthon hasn't actually sat down with him and talked to him. But there are other quarterbacks not named Will Levis and C.J. Stroud.
So I don't think there's anything that you can take away of what Hendon Hooker did in college to say that offensive style will work in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, that Tennessee offense is, and I like Hooker. I do. But you're not running that in the NFL. You're not doing any of it. You're not looking at one side of the field and knowing before the snap who you're throwing the ball to in the NFL.
I think it was Charles Robinson on with Robby and Rexroad last week who said there are people in the NFL that just hate that Tennessee system.
Yeah. I mean, plus between that and the reported 46 on the S2 score for Hendon Hooker, I struggle with that one. So then I did not get a feel for Richardson, for anything that they said.
Didn't really touch on Richardson.
Didn't touch on Richardson. Didn't touch on really anything that would have been about Richardson. But when he talked about how getting to know the kid was so important, and then he said he didn't get to know C.J. Stroud, it makes it hard for me to think that they're going to take C.J. Stroud. And
didn't he also say he didn't go to the Florida Pro Day?
I thought he did say that. I think he said that he went to all of them.
I thought he went, and then I believed he may have said that he didn't go to Florida. Maybe I misinterpreted that.
What he was talking about, because he was like, I didn't have a chance last year to go to Alabama. I didn't have a chance to go to Florida. He's talking about games.
Got it.
During the season, scouting the games. Because I caught on that, too.
Got it.
He was like, I didn't have a chance to get to Alabama. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought you went to Alabama's Pro Day. And I was like, whoa, no, he's talking about the games.
Okay, that makes sense.
I found the Purdy thing to be fascinating, where I asked him about S2, and he kind of gave me the, I'm just starting to get to know it. I don't know, kind of pled the fifth there on S2, it felt like. Kind of pled ignorance on S2.
I am new to it, so I can't.
I just started working here, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that I found a little, and then I asked him about Purdy and about how Brock Purdy had the highest score of anybody on the S2 last year, which is the report. And it was obvious to me that he didn't care that much about, he's not wowed about Brock Purdy's impulse control or Brock Purdy's retention or Brock Purdy's reaction and all the things that the S2 studies, but it was just, he's just such a hard worker. I'll tell you, every time I got to watch him on that plane, Brock Purdy had his head buried in that work. He is the best. And I heard that and I thought to myself, well, if that's what he values about Brock Purdy, if that's what he walks away and says, Brock Purdy is a good quarterback because of that, well, then how can he take C.J. Stroud when he doesn't know C.J. Stroud like that? And
if there is one thing that I have heard about Will Levis, he may not have the best arm, he may not be the quickest, but he'll work harder than you. That he's the first guy in, last guy out kind of mentality.
And I heard that from Liam Cohen, too. Like, Liam Cohen told me that on the Sirius show. Now, I don't know how much he's telling the truth or not.
But also, I'm not going to take Liam Cohen's word for it.
You know, what's he going to do? Go on the show and be like, he sucks. He's got a bad attitude. He's, you're not going to get that. So, I just got to tell you, and I'm just kind of right now looking through my notes that I took during the press conference. I do think he kind of took it. I don't think it was a meant shot at John Robinson, but I do think he kind of took one there when he talked about how it's more inclusive with the coaches in personnel decisions. Kind of felt like that was in before's drafts, they didn't really include everybody's opinions like they kind of do now. The QB
I got that
position,
vibe from the very beginning when they first hired Rand Carthon. There was something going on there with John Robinson that's going to change with Rand Carthon and inclusivity.
Although Vrabel wasn't there today, which I was.
Hey, what happened to collaboration?
I was a little surprised by. Trying to see if there's anything here. Said the most important thing about a quarterback is getting in front of them. And I said, tie this in with the Purdy take, and it's obvious what Rand Carthon's looking for in terms of a hard worker. Let's see. Oh, my God. One I couldn't believe, but he kind of made up for it at the end. He was asked about the balance of a player versus the balance of position of need. And he started off with, in most cases, you want to take care of a need. And I thought, oh, God, no. And then he said you can't reach. So I was like, okay. Now
He
he's
did
just
say that a
generic
lot.
talk.
He said, let's let the board, do the talking. Let's just go by the board, trust the board.
I wrote down he visited his dad in Arkansas this week to unplug and get away. I thought to myself, wait a minute, what? He wasn't working this weekend? I understand, hey, Jared, everybody needs a break. But not this weekend. You take that break after next weekend.
Do you buy that?
That he went to Arkansas and visited his dad?
That he wasn't working and he wasn't thinking about football?
I don't know. He mentioned waking up in the middle of the night at 3:30 in the morning and firing off text to Chad Brinker. And I thought to myself, dude, isn't 3:30 in the morning when GMs wake up?
Isn't that when he said he wakes up?
No, he was talking about
4
he
a.m.?
woke up in the middle of the night. When I wake up at 3:30 and I'm getting older in age, and if you're a guy and you're getting older in age, or you wake up at 3:30 in the morning, there's a reason why. And I'm not thinking about, waking up at 3:30 in the morning. Gosh, what are we going to do at 4:25 tomorrow on the rate? No, it's I'm trying to go back to bed. But that's because I wake up at 8:30 every morning or 7:30 every morning. But when you're a GM in the NFL, don't those guys wake up at 3:30? It shouldn't be.
I'm not going to nitpick the guy's sleep schedule.
I'm just saying, here's my notes. I was just, look, if you draft great players, I don't care about that.
Yeah, if we're talking about when he wakes up, we need the draft to happen tomorrow.
I was surprised still, and just looking through my notes, about the getting to know C.J. Stroud and putting that on Tim Kelly and Mike Vrabel. So is Rand Carthon involved in getting is he just going to take Vrabel's word for it? Should he take Vrabel's word for it? If C.J. Stroud is slipping, because of this S2 test, which Rand Carthon says that he doesn't really totally know? That's kind of concerning. But so those were my takeaways. So, Caroline, you think they're going quarterback?
I do. And of course that can change. Draft day, anything can change. I don't think, because he said it several times, you can't reach. They're not going to trade up to 3 and reach for a quarterback if they don't truly believe that that's their quarterback of the future. But I do think that they're going into draft day wanting a quarterback.
Okay.
But you're not going to reach. You can't reach.
Let's start with that. Caroline, good to see you. As always, enjoy the Stars Celebrity Golf Tournament for us.
Thank you. Love ya.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's get your reaction to what you heard from Rand Carthon. And again, I think it's Levis. I'm just telling you. I think that, and I'm not going to say that I think they go quarterback because of a reason that we'll get to coming up next. But I think that if they're targeting a guy, I think it's Levis. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. It is draft week. We will get to your draft thoughts, as we always do, 615-737-1025 here on the Stillman and Company program. Tune in to the draft. That's right here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game for the first 3 rounds on Thursday and Friday. Our coverage is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, the new Cumberland.com, Smoky Mountain Tops, Parman Energy, B&B Flooring, and the Nashville Sheriff. And again, be sure to join us on Thursday. That's right. Thursday, we will be live out at the Twin Peaks in Cool Springs. Me, Derek Mason, Chris Sanders, again, home of the 29-degree beer on Thursday, April 27th. Be sure to join us for that. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Matich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 $50,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Last year, did you say to yourself, Self, if I took the whole family to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, featuring tons of music and stupid fast Indy cars racing through downtown, I would be a legend parent and or spouse. But then, you didn't go. Hey, don't be that parent and or spouse this year. Step up, wannabe legend, and get the fam to this year's Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, August 4th through 6th. Get tickets at musiccitygp.com and get amped, legend.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Big picture, like basically if the opportunity presents itself, maybe you guys get a quarterback that even this next season looks a little different than if you don't and you're just trying to build around Ryan and Derek to be as good as possible next year, if that question makes sense. You know, kind of a fork in the road here in terms of a little bit of a reset if you take a quarterback, or just going for it next year, I guess, if you don't.
You got to say that one more time. You took me in 3 different ways, so I had to, one more time.
Do you look at this like, there's kind of 2 ways here. You take a quarterback and possibly you're resetting a little bit, you're probably going to sacrifice some picks. You may have the quarterback sit, you may have to step back a little bit with the new quarterback, versus if you don't and you stick with the veterans that you're going to draft to just be as good as possible next season. Is that better?
Yeah. I mean, again, all things are on the table. You know, you don't know how this draft is going to go. Again, it's our job every year to look to improve this roster. And it's not a year-to-year thing, right? We have to see this thing from a macro level and prepare for the future. That's all a part of it. You know, that's what you do when you're constructing contracts. You know, you're not just looking to get a guy signed for this year. You think about future ramifications of the contract and the percentage of the cap that it's going to charge and all those things. So, you know, we're gonna be smart about whatever move we make that's going to set us up not only now but for the future as well.
There you go. That was Rand Carthon today. We could have just played Joe's second question, but we decided to put the first one in there because I was sitting there listening to him talk, and I was like, Joe, where are you going with this, babe? Like, I know what you're asking, but if I didn't know, because I know what you're asking, because I know what you want to know, like, if I didn't know that, if it was somebody, I'd be like, what the hell are you trying to ask me? So I just wanted to play that. Just anytime we could laugh at Joe. All right. So a lot of, Caroline says that she took away from this press conference that they're going quarterback. I cannot get there. And I'm going to tell you why I can't get there right now. And it's because they don't know. Like Joe said, how do you think about it of if you take a quarterback right now as opposed to waiting for Tannehill to play out next year and then be in the situation where you're looking for a quarterback? And I'm going to tell you right now, Rand Carthon sitting there, he doesn't know, because he doesn't know who will be there at 11. He doesn't know who will be there at 5. And so he may have a deal worked out in place with Seattle at 5 or Detroit at 6 or one of those teams. But there's also some guys that Detroit probably wants to draft. And there's probably one guy that, as much as Detroit would love to take your second-round pick and take your third-round pick next year, Detroit's not going to do that if Jalen Carter, for instance, is there, if they love Jalen Carter. Or Will Anderson. If Will Anderson is there, it's like, no, we love Will Anderson too much. We're going to have to take him. So now you don't know if you'll be able to trade up or not. See, this is what I really want to know about. And again, this goes back to the fact that these guys that currently have these jobs will never tell you. And a lot of times, and we know this because we worked with a former general manager, that sometimes, even when they're not working those jobs, either they won't remember everything or they won't tell you. But there's a lot of contingency plans. There's probably 250 plans that the Titans have made out about, okay, well, if this happens and we're in this situation, then what do we do? And so, I mean, look, if he's sitting there and not one of those picks is off the board, I mean, I don't know. They're sitting there and all four quarterbacks are available. Well, now here's the problem that you're in is that, okay, well, I mean, now we've got the choice. We can take any of these guys. And so, okay, we'll take Bryce Young. Well, now that changes the direction of the franchise than it does before. But you don't know if Bryce Young's going to be there. I mean, we have a pretty good feeling that he won't be. But you don't know, okay, we think that we've got a trade worked out with Atlanta, but Atlanta didn't expect Jalen Carter to be there with the 8th pick, and now that throws that off, and so now we're stuck at 11. And I don't think it's as easy as, okay, well, and maybe it is, because I don't know exactly how they have these guys evaluated, but I don't think it's as easy as, well, we like them all. So we're sitting at 11, and if Young goes 1 and Levis goes 2 and Stroud goes 4 and Richardson goes 7, then we can sit there at 11 and take Hooker because, well, we like them all the same. And I highly doubt that they like them all the same. And I wonder, take Kansas City, for instance, in that 17 draft when they moved up with Buffalo. When did Kansas City make the initial call to Buffalo about moving up to number 11? When did Kansas City decide what they were willing to part with? And were they willing to part with all of that for Mahomes and Watson or just for Mahomes? How much did they love Mahomes? Because the Titans had the 5th pick. Did they call John and say, hey, what will it take to get from 21 to 5? And John says it'll take 2 1s, it'll take 3 1s and 2 2s. And you and I all know that you would do that if you knew that you were getting a Hall of Fame quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. But maybe at that point, they didn't even love Mahomes that much. Those are the things I'd love to know, which is when you woke up, talking about Andy Reid, when you woke up that day in 2017, how sure were you that you wanted Mahomes? How did you think you were going to have to go in order to get him? How afraid were you that the Jets had Geno Smith as their quarterback. They were picking 6. They took a safety. Geno Smith in the last year of his deal. And they took a safety. So if the Jets are sitting there at 6 saying, okay, we're going to go quarterback, how much does that screw up your whole draft and your process and everything else? And again, they'll never tell you that. They'll say, oh, we love Mahomes. He's the best. They'll never say, yeah, we had Patrick, but we knew that if Patrick was gone, then we'd turn around and go with somebody else. So make of that what you will. 615-737-1025. My gut is I think they like Levis. And I think they're nervous the Texans may take him at 2. And I think the Texans are going to take him at 2. Right now, he's the betting favorite to be the second pick off the board. 615-737-1025. Your reaction. We'll get to your phones on what you heard from Rand Carthon. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to weigh in here on the program. Let me tell all the fine folks here that, let's see, where's that email from Ian? I'll have to tell it to you later. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 The Game.
This is Colton Sissons, and this is Smashville.
Feeds now Sissons coming onto the left circle, and Colton Sissons puts it in the net.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
Attention, buckaroos. It's time for the Franklin Rodeo. So saddle up and hold on to your lasso. It's 3 days of bull riding, calf roping, western wear, funny clowns, and some of the most talented horses you've ever seen. Join the Stampede from May 18th to May 20th. The Franklin Rodeo is held at the Williamson County Ag Expo Park and is brought to you by Ram Rodeo, Franklin Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Williamson Health, Event 1FX, and Wesley Mortgage. Tickets on sale now at franklinrodeo.com. It's a buckin' good time.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatment, sex start, results vary.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Bite a Bit Thai and Sushi in the heart of East Nashville. Get half off a $30 gift card while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Featuring all the best Thai food, sushi, and cocktails, plus an amazing bar and environment. You can eat a bit and bite a bit with this week's half-off deal. Check out biteabitnashville.com. That's Bite a Bit in East Nashville. Half off at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Hi, I'm Jamie with Souls for Souls, a global nonprofit based in Nashville that provides shoes and clothing to people across the world. We're joining forces with 1025 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament on June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. A portion of the proceeds from the tournament will provide new shoes to children experiencing homelessness right here in Nashville. I hope you'll join us for an afternoon of fellowship and fun, all in support of a great cause. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
What's happening in Nashville? This is Scott Van Pelt. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Stroud in for a visit, but you did bring in Anthony Richardson, Hendon Hooker, and Will Levis. Do you feel like you got to know, you talked about how important the personality was of the quarterback, that you've got to know C.J. Stroud well enough to have that evaluation on?
Yeah, Mike and Tim spent time with him, in Columbus, at the Pro Day, and they feel, good about, him as a person. And then the other guys, I think we have a really cool process when we come in and for our 30 visits, which I won't say publicly because I don't want anybody else to steal our process, but I feel like we truly get to know, some of these kids. You have some of the kids that come in with, what you have gotten just through your intel, and I feel like some guys you see a totally different person. Now, again, it's a job interview, everybody's best face is on, but I feel like when we've sat down with these kids, you get the genuine person of who they really are, and so that I feel is what makes our process really cool when we bring guys in for the top 30.
Okay, that right there was Rand Carthon today saying, hey, Mike and Tim sat down with C.J. Stroud at the Pro Day, and they said they felt good about that one, so we didn't bring him in for a top 30 visit, but I guess we'll have to trust that. Then he talked about how extensive the work that they do on the visits was in order to get to know the kids, and I'm thinking, if you're Rand Carthon, and you're going to trade up to get C.J. Stroud, who scored an 18 on the S2 cognition test, you're going to take that risk. Wouldn't you want to get to know C.J. Stroud? I mean, are you really just going to say, well, Mike said it worked, so, if Mike would know. Now, it's important. I mean, I put this on Vrabel if they draft Stroud, and Stroud can't handle the fame or the money or the ability or he's not smart enough for all those things. But at the same time, like, if I am making this draft choice. I mean, don't you think that I'd want to know them? But they did say they felt good about it, so keep that in mind. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I did promise you a chance to react to what we heard out of Rand Carthon. Adam in Portland has been waiting patiently, going to start us off today on Draft Monday. Go ahead, Adam.
I don't think they're drafting a quarterback, Jared, and I'm not disappointed with that either. Like, there's a couple of things I heard that sounded weird to me. And you love conspiracy theories. I like 90% of what you go off of is conspiracy theories. And the one thing that I heard in his voice when he was asked was, he said, if anybody wants to jump up to 11, and then he sat there for like 5 seconds and he was like, or move down to 11. So I think what they're thinking about is getting out of that spot, and which would be great. Because we could deal with good linemen. We could get one of those like quicker, smaller receivers, whatever. They're probably going to pick somebody that none of us care about or like. But I don't think it's going to be a splashy, crazy pick. I think you all want that so bad, but it's just, if the season ended yesterday, nobody's saying go get a young quarterback for this crappy team. They're saying we got so much other things to work on. So I would say no to getting a quarterback.
Okay, so who normally picks number one in a draft, Adam?
Horrible teams.
Okay, and who do they normally pick?
A quarterback.
Okay, so you're telling me that this team has too many holes that they shouldn't go quarterback, but the teams that always end up with the first pick that are the worst teams and have numerous holes everywhere almost always go quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, man, the thing that I have a problem with, Jared, is that you said from the get-go, I would have had my opinion and trajectory could have changed, but you said all along the Titans are keeping Tannehill. Why would you keep $40 million on the books or whatever it is you got to eat for him?
27. There's a big difference.
Okay, well, whatever it is, why would you pay him though, Jared, and not go get him some type of weapon to give him a chance, one last chance?
I mean, I would do it because if I thought what would be, thank you for your call, Adam, if I thought what would be in the best interest of the long term of my franchise was to get the guy and sit him on the bench for a year so he doesn't have to play and let Ryan Tannehill win some games, and then down the road I have a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow, or I have a guy that can compete with those guys, then I'd feel great about it. I mean, that's the whole point that I've been making all along. Now, I don't disagree with what Adam's premise was, that he thinks the Titans may trade out of that spot at 11, move down, take Broderick Jones out of Georgia, and say, okay, well, this is what we have. He's going to play left guard this year, and then next year we'll move him to tackle, or we're going to move Andre Dillard into left guard, and Broderick Jones is going to play left tackle, and we added a second-round pick and a third-round pick in next year's draft, and, you know, we did that to move to 17, and we took them, and we like it, and yada, yada, yada. I am not saying that that's not possible or likely or anything like that. I mean, I think that both of those scenarios are on the table. Titans trade up, take a quarterback. Titans trade back, and they take somebody else. Titans take a regular player at 11, Peter Skoronski. I think it could be on the table. But to sit there and say like, oh, you know, the reason why is because they need to go get Tannehill a weapon. Well, if they're sitting there at 11, and I think Tyree Wilson is really good. Like, I'd rather have, this is just me, and it might be an unpopular opinion, I'd rather have Tyree Wilson over Will Anderson. I might also rather have Nolan Smith out of Georgia over Will Anderson. I'm just not a Will Anderson guy. Everybody on TV tells me that Will Anderson is going to be the next Bruce Smith, and I don't see it. But let's say that Tyree Wilson is available with the 11th overall pick. And here's Adam saying, don't you have to get Tannehill a weapon? Well, you're not getting Tannehill a weapon by getting Tyree Wilson. But if you get Tyree Wilson and he comes in like Javon Curse and has 14 and a half sacks as a rookie, you're going to have a much better football team. So, I mean, I really believe the Titans are in a position to where everything is on the table. And I'm not really ruling anything out. The one thing that I think I'm ruling out for the Titans, and I know TD asked a question specifically about Smith and Jigba today, and Rand Carthon answered it. I can't imagine that they would draft Jackson Smith and Jigba coming off the hamstring injury when they didn't bring him in for a top 30 visit to have their doctors look at that hamstring. That's the one where I'm like, I don't think the Titans can do that. Other than that, I mean, I think all these things are on the table for the Titans. I'm not going to sit there and say that they couldn't trade down. I think they're very much thinking about the possibility of trading down. See, this is the thing. Coy in Clarksville texts into the show and says the price will be too steep to trade up. Draft the best player available. If Christian Gonzalez is there, you take him. Period. 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 The price will be too steep to trade up. How do we know that? You know, Arizona desperately wants out of the third spot. I mean, they've been reporting this on ESPN and everything else about how Arizona for 2 months has had a for sale sign in the front yard with the third overall pick, and they haven't gotten any bites. Now, will they get some bites on draft night if C.J. Stroud's there? Who knows? But everybody tells me it's too steep to trade up. Well, in 2012 or 2013, the Miami Dolphins and the Oakland Raiders swung a trade from 12-3, and it involved another second-round pick so the Dolphins could draft Deion Jordan. And I'm not saying Deion Jordan was any good because Deion Jordan wasn't any good. But that was not a very expensive price. I mean, I went and I did the draft charts, you know, the trade charts. I guess I had some chart that the Patriots had, and I looked at, you know, just according to the charts, and this does not mean that this is what these teams would want or accept or what I'd be willing to accept. But I looked at all the trade possibilities, right? Let's say you want to trade back. Let's say you want to trade back to 16 with Washington. You'd be getting the 16th overall pick, according to the trade chart. You'd be getting the 16th overall pick plus the value of a late third rounder, which is $150. Would you trade from 11 to 16 only to pick up Washington's third rounder? I mean, is that really worth it? But that's what the chart says. Now, here was one that, I mean, they're going to want more. Atlanta at 8, okay? The value of your pick is, I believe, $1,250. The value of Atlanta's 8th pick, according to the chart that I looked at, which I found on the Patriots website, is $1,400. Which means that according to the charts, you can move up to 8 for the 11th pick and your third round pick at 72. But you know Atlanta's not going to say yes to that. Well, what if Atlanta does say yes to that? What if Atlanta says yes to that because they want Bijan Robinson and they know he'll be there at 11 and they know they can't take him there at 8 because the value's not good enough, but we get an extra third and we get the guy we want. So you're telling me it's too steep to trade up. How do you know that? I don't think there's any way for you to know that. The second part of his text, draft best player available. What if the best player is Bijan Robinson? Do you draft him because, well, he's best player available? Who are the two players that are available when you get to pick? Bijan Robinson and the two highest graded players on your board. Bijan Robinson and Anthony Richardson at 11. And you're still going to take Bijan Robinson because he's best player available? I'm not sure I can totally commit to that. And then he says, if Gonzalez is there, you take him. A corner? Why? Why do I have to take Christian Gonzalez? Now, he's not going to be there. But why do I have to take him? I have corners on my team. Again, there could be a better player than a corner that's available with that 11th pick. There could be a better player that's available than Gonzalez. Again, let's say you draft Christian Gonzalez, and he's Deion Sanders, right? And that's valuable. And you know me, I do not like DBs in the first round, especially corners, because I think corners are made by your pass rushers. You get me a Tyree Wilson, and he goes after that quarterback, all your DBs are going to look better. And I've always believed that. I do not value the corner position. But let's just say Christian Gonzalez is the best corner in the league. I don't even know how much the top corner makes right now. I'm going to guess it's in the ballpark of $18 to $22 million a year. Daniel Jones, an average quarterback, makes 40. So if you're saying, well, I have to take Christian Gonzalez, but Will Levis or Anthony Richardson's available with the 11th pick, and I think I can develop them into a quarterback, well, I'm going to do that and develop them into a quarterback because the value is so much better than even that of a star corner. So this idea of, well, you have to take that corner, you have to take that pass rusher, you have to, if I'm taking him over a quarterback that I think and I've evaluated as a quarterback can be pretty good, if I'm going to do that, he better be a freaking great pass rusher or he better be Deion Sanders. So it's easy to say today, take him if he's there, trade down. But again, I think there's a lot more to it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Rand Carthon asked about character concerns. So we are going to have to make some decisions. Now, we need to outline what those decisions are, and we'll get to that. Stillman and Company right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Actually, during the Rand Carthon press conference, I got a text about my friends at TriStar Moving. You all know how much I love TriStar Moving. That's right. I used TriStar Moving 2 years ago, over 2 years, when they moved me, and it was a wonderful experience. And I've been telling everybody, TriStar Moving, TriStar Moving, TriStar Moving. My best friend texted me today during the Rand Carthon press conference, and I didn't even know he was going with TriStar Moving. He didn't tell me, hey, who are the movers? Right? He just went with TriStar. He texted me at 1:27 today, quote, TriStar Moving is amazing, by the way. 5 stars. So much better than the guys I used last time. Great recommendation. And I am not making that up. I'll right now show my phone right to the camera right there. That was a wonderful text to receive because that's how much I appreciate TriStar Moving. That's how much I know TriStar Moving will get the job done. So if you're looking to move, give them a call, 615-640-1219, or visit them online at nashvillemoving.org/radio. You'll get 10% off your entire move. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, nashvillemoving.org/radio. TriStar Moving, my guys, my official movers.
Want to jump into the mind of a 15-year NFL vet? Well, here's your chance. D-Mace. It's Ask D-Mace.
Come on, bring them on.
Ask questions on football and life to Derek Mason every Friday at 12:30 on Ask D-Mace.
Don't mess with her. The skilled guy. Money reigns supreme.
On Caroline, Willie, and
D-Mace.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Imagine her delight when she unwraps a luxurious spa day from A Moment's Peace, the newly remodeled day spa and salon in Cool Springs. Whether you spend a little or go lavish, you can take comfort that your gift will be treasured, your love on display and a smile on her face. What a thoughtful romantic you are. Give affordable luxury from A Moment's Peace for mums, dads, and grads in Cool Springs across I-65 from Galleria Mall at the intersection of Carruthers Parkway and Bakersbridge Avenue. Call 224-0770 or click online anytime at AMomentsPeace.com.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
They're insightful.
To me, you got a left guard situation you got to figure out.
Credible.
I trust this guy more than this guy.
But sometimes they just argue.
Why do you like the NFL playoffs? Those teams lose.
I don't want college football to be the NFL.
When they get...
Robby, Stanley, and Joe Rexrode are Robby and Rexrode. Weekdays from 6 to 9. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
At pick 11, I would imagine you don't expect to be there another time. So having a pick like this, like how much does that weigh into the whole process of possibly getting a franchise quarterback?
Right. So to your point, you rather be picking at 32, every year. You rather be, at least 31, 32 every year. And for this organization to be picking at 11 with the success that they've had here, it's kind of unprecedented. So ultimately picking that high, you want to be able to come away with what we would call a blue player. A player that's going to come in and contribute to you immediately. So with the hopes of never having to pick up this high again.
There you go. That was Rand Carthon talking about we want a blue player, which is a term I have never heard before, but I'm sure it's a great one, about a player that can come in right away and you draft him and he's a good player and he starts for you and on you go. That's what you want. A premium player. And he is right. Last year we were told there were only 16, 17 first-round grades on players in last year's draft, and you were picking, I think, at 26. So it's not like you were likely to get a player with a first-round grade. This year it seems to be a little different. But the one thing that the Titans are going to have to decide, and maybe they've already decided this, but I believe the Titans are going to have to decide, what they think about some of these first-round players. So I use Scouts, Inc., which is an ESPN subsidiary that's run by Todd McShay, and I used all of their first-round grades. So here are the players that have first-round grades. These are the decisions that we have to make, and we have to make them before Thursday. And we will go through the exercise over the next couple of days of going through all of these players and deciding for ourselves yes or no. So here are the first-round grades. 22 players have round one grades according to Scouts Inc. I think we can all agree, regardless of what happens on Thursday, trade up, trade down, pick at 11. If there are 22 round one graded players, you need to walk away with a first-round pick. Ian, fair to say? Walk away with a first-round pick?
Probably so.
Okay. So here you go. And these are their, the grades that they give them. Bryce Young and Bijan Robinson have 95s. C.J. Stroud, Jalen Carter, and Will Anderson have 94s. Now, again, here are the decisions that'll have to be made. C.J. Stroud, for instance, has an S2 cognitive test he stunk at. He ranked in the 18th percentile. And so we'll have to decide about that. We'll have to make a decision as to whether or not we're willing to invest in the 18th percentile of the S2 cognition test. Jalen Carter. Again, I don't think Jalen Carter will get to the Titans, and I certainly don't think the Titans would trade up for Jalen Carter. But if Jalen Carter is on the board at 11, we're going to have to decide, do you look at those character issues? Do you look at the red flags of the drag racing, of the pro day performance? Do you look at that and say to yourself, that's a risk. That's a risk. The 93 grades, according to Scouts Inc., Tyree Wilson and Devin Witherspoon. I don't think there are any questions about those guys. 92, Peter Skoronski and Christian Gonzalez. Now, I think we're going to have a discussion about Skoronski, because if Peter Skoronski is a left tackle and he has entered the draft as a tackle, then if he's there at 11, take him to play left tackle. But if he's a guard, even though he may have a high grade of a 92, again, are you going to take a guard? All I ever hear is you guys complain about how many holes the Titans have. You're going to take a guard with that pick? So we'll have to discuss that. 91s, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. He's an injury concern. Do we trust the hamstring? Will you allow the Titans, after all of the problems that they have had with the injuries, would you allow the Titans to take Jackson Smith and Jigba? Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, he's an injury. He had back surgery. Remember the last time he took a guy who was coming off of back surgery? Now, Rick Spielman said on his podcast, former general manager of the Vikings, that he heard that Kincaid has been 100% cleared. But again, remember last time you took somebody coming off of back surgery? I do too. Paris Johnson also has a 91, so these are guys with 91 grades according to ScoutSync. Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, Darnell Wright, the right tackle at Tennessee. Ian, I put a C next to Darnell Wright for character concerns.
Yep.
Because we read in the Bob McGinn piece that he's lazy as hell.
Too much a little Isaiah Wilson flashes in there in that piece.
He's a big old lazy fatty, and I don't know if that's true or not, but we're going to have to decide on that. Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa, defensive end, has a 91. Kalijah Cansey, a defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh, has a 91. Nolan Smith, the pass rusher out of Georgia. To me, he's an injury guy. He got hurt last year. I think he tore his pec, and he had surgery on it. Now, he performed at the Combine, and he performed well. And so, I mean, again, I'm not an interest, somebody that is absolutely positively against injured people, but I do like Nolan Smith. And then the other guys with first-round grades, Zay Flowers, Michael Meyer, the tight end out of Notre Dame, and Emmanuel Forbes, the corner out of Mississippi State. So I say all of this to say that over the next 3 days, we're going to have to decide how much C.J. Stroud's S2 cognition test bothers us. How much do the character concerns about Darnell Wright and Jalen Carter, how much do those bother us? The injury concerns about Jackson Smith and Jigba, about Dalton Kincaid, about Nolan Smith, the positional value of Peter Skoronski, all of those are the decisions that we'll have to make. And I believe that they've probably already made. So to me, I think that there's a chance that some of these people won't like, that you'll hear us decide to rule somebody out because we think they may be a liability in the NFL, and you may want to draft them, or you may think it's crazy that we ruled this person out. But never forget draft night 2021 when the Titans took Caleb Farley, and a lot of you loved the pick. You were like, this guy would have been a top 5 pick if he were healthy. And I remember thinking, right, but he's not. And remember how crazy Chris Sanders got when they picked Caleb Farley, because Chris Sanders had a back injury and it ended his career. And so Caleb Farley, and I think it was the same back injury. And Chris Sanders, the nicest guy in the world, the most positive guy in the history of the world, said it was a terrible pick when the Titans made it. So we got to start ruling guys out ahead of time. And I don't want to brag on the Stillman and Company show, but between me, Ian, and Caroline, when we heard the reports from Ian Rappaport about Caleb Farley's back, we all agreed to not take him. And then the Titans took him. And now the guy who took him isn't the GM anymore. And I think that the Farley pick does have something to do with that. So those are the decisions I'll have to go over, and we'll go over those as well. We're going to make our first decision, though, coming up next. C.J. Stroud and his S2 cognition test. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Let me tell all the fine folks out there on what is this just absolutely wonderful, beautiful day. Let me tell everybody to not miss, that's right, we've got a lot of great stuff coming on, that this week's Nashville's Best Deal is Bite a Bit in the heart of East Nashville. Get half off a $30 gift card while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. Bite a Bit features all the best Thai food, sushi, and cocktails that you will love. Check them out at biteabitThaiSushi.com.
All the big plays.
Ball right to score. Yoshi sets up Matt Duchene.
All the big stories.
For the Predators, are you holding on to what you got, or are you selling some guys off?
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Green flag is in the air.
It may not happen that way every game.
His shot stopped.
Gotta play better, gotta coach better.
TD Tigers.
The Game. and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
For more than a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. In their car, at home, or on the job, more than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. AM radio is also the backbone of the emergency alert system, which keeps us safe in dangerous times. It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
Now, your Game Center update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. It's officially NFL Draft Week. The first round of the NFL Draft will take place on Thursday night. Teams are finalizing their plans, and Titans GM Rand Carthon met with the media today. Carthon talked about the opportunities the Titans have at pick 11.
For this organization to be picking at 11 with the success that they've had here, it's kind of unprecedented. So ultimately picking that high, you want to be able to come away with what we would call a blue player. You know, a player that's going to come in and contribute to you immediately with the hopes of never having to pick up this high again.
There are 2 NBA playoff games on tap for tonight. The Heat tried to take a 3-1 series lead versus the Bucks, and the Grizzlies are looking to even their series versus the Lakers tonight in the late game. And don't miss the latest edition of the Commodore Hour tonight beginning at 6 o'clock on 94.9 The Fan. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 106.3.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 1025, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. It is a Draft Monday. And again, the one thing that this show promises not to be is surprised by what happens on Thursday. So everything that we will discuss outside of maybe 1 or 2 topics throughout the week will be about situations that may arise on Thursday and decisions that the team will have to make. And the first decision I think we need to start off with is the reported S2 cognition score when it came to CJ Stroud. So Bob McGinn of GoLongTD.com, who has been covering the Packers for years, reported that CJ Stroud scored an 18 on the S2 cognition test. And this is not the Wonderlic test. So the idea of, well, who cares about an aptitude? It's not that. It's a reaction test. It's an impulse control test. It's a retention test. It was basically used for hitters in Major League Baseball, and now they figured out how to use it with football players. And as Bob McGinn talked to a league executive who said it's a good test for weeding out quarterbacks, the executive said having a good score does not necessarily mean that you're going to be a good quarterback. Having a bad score does, in fact, mean that you are not going to be a good quarterback. That they've been doing this for 7 years. And over the 7 years, again, according to Bob McGinn, to a league executive he talked to, over the 7 years, no quarterback that has had a bad S2 has been a franchise quarterback. So C.J. Stroud reportedly scored an 18. Now, this is Brandon Ally. He was on Pro Football Focus. This was 10 days ago, before the S2 test became the biggest talk leading into the draft. This was 10 days ago. And he was asked about what the numbers mean. When you score a 93 or a 94 or a 90, it's not out of 100 for like it's not like a math test where you got 25%, but it is the percentile with which you rank. Here's what he said.
Our database right now is 3,600 NFL prospects. And so it would be that 3% of college athletes that have declared for the draft and have gone through that process. And so when you get a percentile rank, it is compared to those players. So, I think in the context of, hey, this is a low number, a 50 is an average NFL prospect. That guy is getting drafted. He's going to be on a roster. So, low numbers are, again, it's just all contextual. It doesn't mean a player can't play.
Yeah.
It just means that he's going to have more areas that he's going to struggle with than others.
Okay. So he's saying that a 50 is average. You're an average processor if you score a 50. And again, the reported number for CJ Stroud is an 18. So that is not just below average. That is horrendously below average. So when we're talking about what you do well, his pocket awareness, excellent. His arm strength, above average. His athleticism, above average. His accuracy was above average to excellent. Know that his processing, according to the test, the subjective test, reportedly was terrible. So keep that in mind. Ian, if you could, I asked Ran Carthon today about his thoughts on the S2 cognition test. And I think it's fascinating, too, because apparently San Francisco does not subscribe to the S2 program, but their quarterback, whom they drafted with the last pick in last year's draft, Brock Purdy, who Ran Carthon could not stop talking about and was just glowing about today, he actually had the highest score. So I asked Ran, how much value does he put into the S2 test when it comes to quarterbacks? What did it mean to you that Brock reportedly scored the best of all the quarterbacks last year, and then you saw in San Francisco how he processed the game as a rookie?
Again, I'm hearing that Brock it doesn't surprise me, but I think more than anything, you have to know the human that Brock is, right? Like Brock knew that he wasn't the tallest, the fastest, or had the strongest arm, but I legitimately saw this kid prepare every game. As you hear it all the time. You hear guys say, I'm preparing as if I'm going to be the starter, right? I saw him do that. His seat was right across the row from mine. So whether he was inactive or active on our flights to away games, he put in the work. So I don't know if the S2 picks that up, but I saw the work and the type of human he was that I think supersedes any type of cognitive testing.
Okay, so he kind of dismissed that one. But then what about the S2 overall as far as what it means for a quarterback? I asked Ran Carthon about that specifically. Ian, do we have that? Here's what he said. How do you feel about the S2 cognition test as far as the quarterback position is concerned?
So this is my first experience with the S2, so I'm still learning it, myself. So there's still a space for me to grow. I know we use it. And we're, working through it. We met with them last week so I can get a better understanding of how to use it, as a part of our analytical component, to evaluate a player. But myself, I'm still learning. It's my first experience with it. So I've only, really been diving into it over the last month or so.
Okay. So that was kind of a, hey, I just started working here, man. I don't know much about it, which I'm not sure is exactly true, but it probably is the smart thing to say because it wards off the scent of anybody being on to you saying, hold on, an 18 on the S2. Oh, yeah, we subscribe to S2. We love the S2 cognition test. Now, I know that I believe it was Brandon Ally that went on. There are two co-founders of S2. One of them went on it was Brandon Ally, went on the Pat McAfee show today and said that the S2 scores that he has seen reported are not accurate. And so I think this kind of casts a shadow on the idea of, is it real that CJ Stroud scored an 18? Now, I have two thoughts on that. First, I don't think S2 can tell you what somebody scored. I think that is proprietary information that is owned by the clubs that do business with S2. So they can tell you, hey, we're going to call some balls and strikes on some of these, but they can't tell you exactly what these scores were or weren't and who did what or who didn't do what. So some of this very easily could be part of the pre-draft lying process. But Tom Pelissero, who is a very dialed-in reporter in the league, wrote in his breakdown of what he was hearing about the quarterbacks around the league. And I actually heard Tom Pelissero talk about this on NFL Network Radio, and he said that he doesn't watch anything about these quarterbacks. That when he does this, he doesn't have any opinion of these quarterbacks. Doesn't watch college football, doesn't watch tape on these guys. He's an insider. He's not an analyst. So that way he can just go and ask these guys whatever it may be. He reported over the weekend that C.J. Stroud has taken the S2 cognition test multiple times and has struggled with it. So the idea that, 18, that may not be accurate, or this may be, again, this is lying season. So either somebody's telling the truth about the score, or somebody's not telling the truth about what's accurate or what's not. And the guys, again, for S2 did not come out and say that was C.J. Stroud that is completely inaccurate as far as the S2 is concerned. So all I can go off of is what Bob McGinn reported, and Bob McGinn is a very well-connected NFL writer, and what Tom Pelissero with the League-owned network wrote. And not only that, last week when Brady Quinn came out and he said that C.J. Stroud had blown off the Manning Passing Academy, it didn't take long for the pushback to come against Brady Quinn and that report about C.J. Stroud didn't agree to do the Manning Passing Academy, and that was bad on Brady Quinn's part, and how dare they? We haven't heard any pushback. You know, if I was the agent of C.J. Stroud, and this is getting out there that he did so preposterously on this test, would I not, if I was the agent, would I not run and say, whoa, this is not true. In fact, CJ scored a 74. But they didn't. So all I can go off of is what I know. And what I know is one report was 18. Another report was he's taken it multiple times and he struggled with it. And again, the executive told Bob McGinn, quote, that if you do poorly, and I say quote, but I'm paraphrasing here, if you do poorly, it is 100% that you will not be a franchise quarterback. So with that being said, what we know about the S2 cognition test, can you invest in C.J. Stroud? Can you invest in a high pick? I brought this up to a bunch of people who say, who cares about the S2 test? I'm like, well, again, if there's a database of 3,500 and he's in the 18th percentile, that is terrible. That's terrible. Even if it's not 18, even if it's 35, that's terrible. Hendon Hooker reportedly got a 46. That's terrible. So I'm going to invest when we know that 55%, according to Bill Polian, of playing quarterback in the NFL is the mental and cognitive elements of the game. Are we really going to invest a high pick in C.J. Stroud? I'll be completely honest with you, and I'm not going to be like a Mel Kiper and say, well, on my board, because I don't watch enough to be able to tell you who's who on a board or anything like that. But in my head, I've got it right now, and this score is screwing with me. It is Young 1, Richardson 2, Levis 3, Stroud 4. Ian, are you affected by the S2 cognition test with C.J. Stroud? Would you be hesitant to draft C.J. Stroud based off of what we know?
It does add some hesitation to my decision process. Yeah, it does. You know, based on what I heard on C.J. Stroud about him just being, I don't know, they all said he was very accurate and very good at anticipatory throwing. And that kind of surprises me that he wouldn't do well in the S2 test given that trait. So, you know, that intrigued me, but now I'm hearing about the S2. So it is throwing a little bit of cold water on the situation. I'll admit it is. Yeah.
Now, if he slides to 11, I think that's a different discussion. But if we're talking about what it would take to get to 6 with Detroit or 5 with Seattle to get your franchise quarterback, I don't think I can do that. I think I'm out on C.J. Stroud. I think this is the first draft decision that I'm making of the day. The trade up for C.J. Stroud, for me, is off the table. Now, if he falls to you at 11, that's a different discussion. And even then, I'd still be hesitant. But the S2 cognition test and just what I know about it based on, what good reporters have reported about how important this test is, how it weeds out guys, about how some teams, that 18 for C.J. Stroud was so bad that he will be taken off of teams' boards. I don't think you can invest the high pick in him. Somebody will, but that's a big exception to make. Now, they say 80 is good. Anthony Richardson got a 79. I can make that exception. Anthony Richardson's in the 99th percentile of everything else. Size, 99th percentile. Athleticism, 99th percentile. Arm strength, 99th percentile. Cognitive abilities, cognition test, 79th percentile. I can live with that. 18. I don't think I can live with that one. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones on this. And there's one player that when I was thinking about C.J. Stroud, because I think there's a lot of people out there that would say, well, how can you not look at what C.J. Stroud did at Ohio State? How can you not look at him and say, well, I mean, obviously, to your point, Ian, he's got to be able to anticipate something. And there was one player it kind of reminds me of. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Tune in for Sounds Baseball tomorrow night at 6:35 on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds will take on the Omaha Storm Chasers, the AAA affiliate of the Kansas City Royals. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robby and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Nissan. Are you tired of April showers ruining your mood and turning your car into a muddy mess? Well, Newton Nissan has a solution for you. I want to introduce the brand new Newton Rainproof car. Yes, you heard it right. Our cars are specifically designed to keep you dry during those pesky April showers. Our patented rainproof technology includes a roof that doubles as an umbrella, a windshield that repels water like a superhero, and tires that have built-in rain boots. With the Newton Rainproof car, you'll never have to worry about getting wet again. Say goodbye to ruined hair and soggy socks. And the best part? If you buy a Newton Rainproof car during the month of April, you'll get a free set of windshield wipers that sing in the rain. You can stay dry and shop our full selection of rainproof cars at newtonnissan.com and buy a car from the comfort of your dry home with Newton FastPass. It's the fast, easy, and dry way to buy your car online. So come on to Newton Nissan and make a splash with our rainproof cars. Hurry, the offer ends when the rain stops pouring, which could be never.
B&B Flooring has a goal to bring your dream floor to you. Over 30 years running and locally owned and operated, B&B Flooring's full-service commercial and residential team will handle anything from tile, luxury vinyl, carpet, hardwood, rubber, and all commercial products.
Visit their showroom at 2204 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro or check them out at bnbflooringtn.com to make your flooring selection today. Call 615-216-0551 and schedule a free quote at your home or office.
We got you covered.
Spring into action. Take the short drive to Social Furniture on the West Side. You'll be amazed with Social Furniture's huge selection of top quality, name brand furniture. Social Furniture has your dream furniture on sale now during our spring home makeover sale. Why shop at Social Furniture? Great furniture, great service, great prices. Full service, hassle-free delivery, and interest-free financing with no money down. Make Social Furniture a great place to furnish your home. If you want a deal, don't wait, shop now.
I shop at Social Furniture because of the money I saved and the way I'm treated.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on 102.5 The Game.
This is R.A. Dickey, and I'm proud to tell you about my friends at Smoky Mountain Tops. When my wife Ann and I needed new countertops for our kitchen, we called Smoky Mountain Tops. We wanted to make sure that we worked with a company dedicated to quality, craftsmanship, and customer service. And that's what we got with Smoky Mountain Tops. Go with the pros at Smoky Mountain Tops for any of your surfacing countertop needs. Located in Knoxville and Nashville. Visit SmokyMountainTops.com.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah. And like us on Facebook, too. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, we got some breaking news from Adam Schefter, ESPN. The trade is finally done. Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. The Jets get Aaron Rodgers, and they swap. So I just wanted everyone to know, because they get the 15th pick in the draft. Green Bay gets the 13th pick in the draft. A 2023. So here's what the Jets get, according to Schefter. Aaron Rodgers, pick number 15, and a 5th-round pick in this year's draft, pick number 170. The Packers get 13, so it's a 2-spot swap from 15 to 13, which I wouldn't have done. A 2nd-round pick, number 42, a 6th-round pick, and a conditional 2nd-round pick that becomes a 1st next year if Rodgers plays 65% of the plays. So basically, what Green Bay got for Aaron Rodgers was, if I'm doing this right, let's say the 5th-round pick kind of cancels out the 6th-round pick, and the pick swap, who cares? Although I wouldn't move from 13 to 15. But the Packers are basically getting a 2nd-round pick and a 2nd-round pick next year that becomes a 1st-round pick if Rodgers plays 65% of the plays, and obviously Rodgers will play 65% of the plays. Let me say this. That's a terrible trade for the Jets. I'm not giving up a 1st-round pick. I am not giving up a 1st-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. That's what they did. Now, what they're saying is if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays, we'll be so good that our 1st-round pick will be 28th next year. I don't care. That's still a 1st-round pick. I would not have done that. I would not have done that. Bonehead move by the Jets. Just bonehead. Wow. 2 seconds at a minimum for Rodgers, but really a 2nd and a 1st. Bonehead. We'll have some more thoughts on that. Again, the decision on C.J. Stroud and whether or not we should care about C.J. Stroud's S2 cognition report and whether or not, if you're the Titans, if you should be out on C.J. Stroud because of the S2 cognition report. And I will say this, for the most part, I'm kind of out. I'm out. Now, again, the founder of S2 went on Pat McAfee today, and he said that some of the reports he saw, he said they weren't true. He actually went on Pro Football Focus, Ian, if you could. This is Brandon Ally, and was telling people, and this was even before the Bob McGinn report came out on Friday, but he was telling people, hey, these reports, let's be careful about what we hear.
Just to address the quarterback thing, I would say that we're obviously aware of scores being leaked, and we're not sure where that's coming from. But I will say that take some of those with a grain of salt.
Okay.
We have seen, hey, so-and-so scored the highest in the class or the highest ever, and so-and-so scored low. And it's like, yeah, that's not true.
Okay. So let me just say this. The Titans subscribe to S2, which means they have the real numbers. So we're operating under the guise that C.J. Stroud stinks at this S2 score, which if he didn't, I think there would be more pushback on. And everybody keeps saying, well, what about all the plays that C.J. Stroud made at Ohio State? What about all the touchdowns, the 85 touchdowns, the 12 interceptions? Go watch the tape, Jared. Go watch the Georgia game. And I sat there and I thought to myself, you guys, when we talk about Anthony Richardson, you say, he's Vince Young. And that makes me uncomfortable because Vince Young had some personality issues and some dedication issues when it came to being quarterback. I have no idea if Anthony Richardson has those or not, but I think you guys just compare him to Vince Young because he's black. Because he's black and athletic, and so people compare him. Just like people compare Will Levis to Jake Locker because he's white and athletic. And so I don't care about it. I look at Broderick Jones, the tackle out of Georgia, and I see a lot of Taylor Lewan in him. So I try not to think about it the way that sometimes these things get presented to us. But then I thought about this. C.J. Stroud, an incredibly productive college player who plays with great talent around him in a system at a school that does not traditionally provide the NFL with high-end quarterback play, and yet is looking like the number 2 pick in the draft and had an unbelievable college career. Who would that be like? And then it hit me. Marcus. So I did a side-by-side comparison. Marcus is 6'4", C.J. Stroud 6'3". That's probably similar. Marcus is 222. This is what he weighed at the combine, 222. C.J. Stroud weighed 214. Now, that's a little slight, and you'd like to see C.J. Stroud gain a little bit of weight, but again, I think when I watched them play, they're kind of similar. Mariota has 32-inch arms. Stroud, 32 5/8. Mariota, 9 7/8 hand size. C.J. Stroud, 10. Pretty simple. Now, here are the college stats. And I couldn't give two poops about your college stats. But here are the college stats. Mariota in college was a 67% passer. Stroud was 69. Touchdowns. Mariota, 105. Stroud, 85. Now, Mariota played another season, so that's why Mariota threw 20 more touchdown passes. Interceptions. Mariota, 14. Stroud, 12. Record. Mariota 36 5, 88%. Stroud 22 4, 85%. So 88 to 85. Not that big of a difference. Yards per attempt, Mariota in college 9.3, Stroud 9.8. You see what I'm saying? I mean, these guys with everything, whether it's their hand size, whether it's their touchdowns, whether it's their completion percentage, whether it's their yards per attempt, in college, they're all about the same on some level or another. Where did Mariota fail as a quarterback? In my opinion, Mariota failed because when he got taken out of that college system and he got put into Ken Wisenhunt's bullcrappery and he got hit, and then all of a sudden he got healthy and he got a running game and they switched offenses on him, and I always felt like Marcus's anticipation was a problem. I didn't think Marcus was great at adjusting at the line of scrimmage. I think Marcus Mariota is one of the finest men I have ever met in my life. I think he is a true gentleman. I like Marcus. But at the same time, I just don't think Marcus has it. And I defended Marcus for a long time because I saw the athleticism and I saw the size. And you and I both know that there were times where Marcus Mariota could throw some of the most beautiful passes you've ever seen. But he wasn't consistent. And there were too many times, like when John Simon intercepted him at the Monday Night Football game at home against Indianapolis and ran it back for a touchdown. Or on the road in 2017 at Arizona where he threw a ball right over the middle and just didn't see the linebacker standing there and the guy picked it off. Where Marcus just didn't see it. Where Marcus just didn't recognize. As soon as Tannehill took the job, it was totally night and day. And in part because Tannehill was checking at the line of scrimmage a lot, something that Marcus didn't do much. My guess is if we hooked him up to those computers, and the S2 test has come out after Mariota was drafted and after Tannehill was drafted, but if we hooked him up to the S2 tests and we said, all right, Marcus, ready, set, go. As great of a college player as Mariota was, and he won the Heisman Trophy. We talk about watch the game in which C.J. Stroud almost beat Georgia, Mariota beat the defending national champions and the undefeated Florida State Seminoles in the college football playoff. Mariota was a great college player. So Mariota has the size. He has the speed and athleticism. He had the experience. He was a 3-year starter in college. He had the stats, the success. He's a hard worker. I think we all know that. We all know Marcus is a hard worker. So why did Marcus fail? And I think a lot of it is retention. I think it's processing. I think it was seeing what was out there. I think it was anticipation. And I think some of that might have hurt him, that he came from that janky college offense in Oregon. So before we just sit there and say, well, Jared, watch what C.J. Stroud did in college, let's remember what Mariota did in college. And I have it in front of me again. The completion percentage, C.J. Stroud, 3 points higher than Mariota. That's not that big of a difference. Touchdown, Mariota with 1 more season, 20 more. Interceptions, Mariota 2 more. Again, also played another season. But how about this? In college, Mariota was a 67% passer. In the pros, he was 63. And this is with the Titans. This is not his entire career. But, again, if you take Stroud, it's for as long as he's with you. So the first 5 years of his career, Marcus was a 63% passer. Touchdowns, again, 105 in college, 76 in the pros. Interceptions, 14 in college, 44 in the pros. Record, he was an 88% winner in college at 36-5. He was 29-32 with the Titans. Yards per attempt, 9.3 in college, 7.5 in the NFL. So you say that these things don't matter. You say that the anticipation and the test and the S2 and I remember when Matt LaFleur showed up and how hard Marcus had a time adjusting to that offense. Well, that's what you'd be asking C.J. Stroud to do if you took him. And so Mariota had every box checked coming out of college, just like Stroud does. But ultimately, the things that this test is supposed to find, I believe that's what held Marcus up and kept him from being a superstar. Now, I don't know C.J. Stroud, but Mariota, I think, is one of the greatest guys in the world. But I'm not convinced that Mariota is a great leader, a guy that the team can climb on. He had his moments, but I never felt like Mariota was Joe Burrow out there commanding the troops. Might be an issue, too. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phone, 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The NFL offseason is in full swing, but you'll never miss any of the big news. Thanks to Yahoo's Charles Robinson.
They know that there's a chance that they're going to have to deal this guy.
He's one of the best insiders there is.
All of a sudden, he becomes a functional player who we thought was just trash.
Join Charles Robinson every Thursday morning at 8 on Robby and Rex Road, presented by the NFL Alumni Association on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Michelle Knezvik here for Superbook Sports. Baseball is back and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the best wagering app around, with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in the one and only Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager all in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning some money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
You want a mower that delivers a quality cut and an exceptional ride. You need the Kubota Z200 series with the new K-Ride comfort system, designed to give you everything you need to glide your way to a perfectly manicured lawn. Visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is David Poyle. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
The hardest part about that whole Wonderlic thing is, and I think that's why S2 came around, is that there was no correlation. Like, you couldn't sit there and go, well, every player so far that, had under a 3 has been a bust in the NFL. No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, there was players I know that, had dyslexia and were all pros for years in the National Football League. So it didn't really correlate. So then S2 comes out and they're a cognitives test. And I think the trick is that when you kind of go through them all is you kind of look at it and say, how much weight do I want to give this? It does have some validity, but at the same point, I struggle with it because I still don't think it tells you everything you need to know. Meaning, it gives me a very frustrated look at, yes, did C.J. Stroud score poorly on the S2? Yes, he did, and everybody would admit that, and C.J. Stroud would admit that. And did he, in 2 years at Ohio State, throw 85 touchdowns and 12 interceptions? Yep, well, that sounds pretty smart, not a lot of So it's really a tricky one. And I think when you start to go back and you say, all right, well, let's just look at the quarterbacks that have taken this test before and say, how often is this one, what's the score for these quarterbacks? That's the interesting part when you start to kind of like, what's the trend? So 7 years of data, what is it showing us? And I think that's where clubs got to decide how they want to use this information.
There you go. That was Mark Dominic on Sirius XM NFL Radio, former NFL general manager, about, hey, S2's real, but, I mean, you got to be able to use it as a piece of the puzzle in evaluating. Now, S2 came out after Dominic left the NFL, and I just keep going by that one quote in the Bob McGinn article, which was, look, 100% of the time, if you have a bad S2 score, you are not going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. I mean, that's all I have. Like, that to me is enough, that if we've got 7 years worth of data, and every time somebody had a bad S2 score, they weren't a good quarterback, that's enough for me to say no on C.J. Stroud. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Texter says, what did the GMs you said were paid to know that you said you believe in say about C.J. Stroud? You said they were preaching the gospel about Anthony Richardson. You were dancing in the pews, and you told all of us that you believed in them more than anyone else. Now it doesn't fit your narrative, and their perspective hasn't been heard from. Bill Polian said C.J. Stroud was great. What is wrong? Is Bill Polian all of a sudden an idiot? That comes from a texter. And let me say this. When we heard on Thursday of last week, or whatever day it was, I think it was Thursday, when we heard on Thursday of last week that the Houston Texans may not be going C.J. Stroud with the number 2 pick, we thought, whoa, do you need to get in the mix for C.J. Stroud? And Friday morning, I was on Robby and Joe, and they asked me, what do you think is best case scenario for the Titans? I said, it's to get C.J. Stroud. And Joe said, even though he scored an 18 on the S2 test, and I didn't know anything about it. I woke up 5 minutes before I went on Robby and Rex Road. I didn't know that he scored an S2 or scored an 18 on the S2. Well, then when I read more about the S2, I was like, oh, boy. Oh, boy. And so you ask, well, what about what Bill Polian says? This is what Bill Polian said in his full scouting report breakdown of the quarterbacks. And I know because I have the whole thing raw because they sent it to me. And here's what he said at the very end of the quarterback breakdown.
tape, that's only about 45% of the picture. The other 55% is the tests, both written and otherwise, that tell you whether a player, a quarterback particularly, can process quickly, can do it under pressure, can learn and retain complicated information, can recall it and act upon it under extreme physical pressure, whether his demeanor is such that he inspires confidence in his players, whether he has leadership qualities, whether he's got the ability to handle the pressure that comes with playing quarterback in the NFL, whether he's got the maturity to handle the money and fame that's ultimately going to come with play and come soon with playing quarterback in the NFL. In fact, sooner perhaps than they deserve in terms of their physical and mental preparedness. All of that, including a full workup by the club psychologist, we are not privy to and shouldn't be, because it is proprietary information, but it is the difference maker.
Okay. So Polian you're saying, well, what did Bill Polian say about C.J. Stroud? Bill Polian said that the handling pressure, the adjusting on the fly, the leadership, the ability to take care of themselves off the field, all of that is more important than what they do on the tape in college. And I agree. And at the end, Bill says that is proprietary information. We don't know it, and we shouldn't know it. So the S2 score, again, which calculates mental processing, anticipation, retention, C.J. Stroud reportedly was terrible in. And I do believe that's why the Texans went from 2 months of, well, whoever Carolina doesn't take, we'll take, to, yeah, we're not taking him. The betting favorite, according to FanDuel, for the number 2 pick is Will Levis right now. Because the Houston Texans probably saw that S2 score or heard about how bad it was, and they said, yeah, no, we can't take that. And I'm not saying the Texans are the smartest people in the world. But I do think there's a chance that this is all going hand in hand. So you ask me, what about the GMs that you love so much? That's what Polian said. And if that test is telling us that C.J. Stroud cannot handle what's going to be thrown at him from a processing standpoint in the NFL, then you would be busting on that pick if you made it. And if you made it, you might be getting fired. Ryan texts in and says, can you find out Zach Wilson, Malik Willis, and others' S2 scores? I think if they are both bad, along with Purdy's score, it will solidify the test with me. It's completely proprietary information. I talked to somebody today who told me that they didn't think that the 18 score for C.J. Stroud was accurate. Now, I can't report that because I have no idea of knowing it one way or another. But I said, if that were the case, if C.J. Stroud's S2 score wasn't an 18, wouldn't his agent have gone out and said, whoa, that is not true? And even if the agent didn't come out directly and say it, wouldn't the agent have told Adam Schefter or told Ian Rappaport or told those guys, yeah, this isn't true. C.J. Stroud got a 76. And you know the answer to that is yes. So I am guessing it is true that C.J. Stroud had a terrible score on this S2 test. And Tom Pelissero reported something similarly over the weekend. So I got to tell you, I think it's a bad score. But the person I was talking to about this, they said that the reason why S2 could not come out and say that's bullcrap, if it were in fact bullcrap, is because the way S2 works is they don't release this stuff. You pay for it from them. They give it to you, and they do not call balls and strikes as to what people are saying or not saying. So they don't make it public. I mean, this is their proprietary information. These two neuroscientists that came up with this test, this is exactly what they broke down. Texter to the text line says, on Friday, Chad Withrow made a comparison between Will Levis and Tim Tebow being too muscular and not having success in the league because of it. Going by the eye test, Anthony Richardson looks more jacked than Will Levis. I would say that for me, I believe that Will Levis is more like weightlifting cut up top, and Anthony Richardson is more wiry. I think that'd be the way to say it. Wiry. I think he's more wiry of
replacements reference there. I like that.
Thank you. I think he's a little bit more wiry than Will Levis is. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. I mean, I am stunned by a development today as we continue along with our draft thoughts. I mean, I am absolutely stunned. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to get in on the program. We'll get back to your phones as well. Stillman and Company. And by the way, I do have we had our conspiracy theory on Friday about C.J. Stroud tanking the test. There are a couple of parts of that I'd like to amend and add to. You think that I'm going to be shamed into backing off the conspiracy theory that C.J. Stroud tanked the S2 test to be able to fall to the Titans. I have actually thought of more reasons. We'll get to that coming up. Hey, sometimes Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, because something goes wrong, you got to call them because they're the best. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks. But there are actually big problems that can come from outdated, old, vintage HVAC systems. Older systems have higher repair costs, require more maintenance, and result in higher utility bills. And even worse, they can break down when you need them the most. This month, during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Plus, everybody wins with trade-in credits and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacements. Hiller's work is backed by the Happy You'll Be Your Services free guarantee, and I know this because I use Hiller at my home. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. My guys, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face truck today.
The crowd is standing on its feet. It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Join 1025 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs. Be the ball. Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
Last year, Jerry was all like, hey, I'm going to go to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix this year. Then he didn't. Instead, he decided to weed his garden. And he missed an August weekend of IndyCar racing, super truck racing, even night racing, all through downtown Nashville. Sure, old Jer had a lot of weeds to pull, but Jerry also totally sucks. Hey, don't suck like Jerry. Get your tickets at MusicCityGP.com for August 4th through 6th. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Get amped.
The Beach Boys. Live in concert. May 25th, 26th, and 27th at Schermerhorn Symphony Center. Performing with the Nashville Symphony. The Beach Boys return to the stage. Tickets on sale now at NashvilleSymphony.org. Don't miss the Beach Boys live with the Nashville Symphony.
Hi, this is Jamie from Souls for Souls. I hope you can join us on June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament. We've partnered with 1025 The Game to provide shoes to students experiencing homelessness right here in Nashville. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Pennzoil Platinum can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $37.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Start your day with a cup of Joe. Ugh, he's gonna think that's stupid. Wait, what? Robby Stanley and Joe Rexroad are Robby and Rexroad. There, that sounds better.
Thank you so much.
Weekdays from 6 to 9, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions, and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You didn't bring C.J. Stroud in for a visit, but you did bring in Anthony Richardson, Hendon Hooker, and Will Levis. Do you feel like you got to know, you talked about how important the personality was of the quarterback, that you've got to know C.J. Stroud well enough to have that evaluation on?
Yeah, Mike and Tim spent time with him, in Columbus, at the Pro Day, and they feel, good about, him as a person. And then the other guys, I think we have a really cool process when we come in and for our 30 visits, which I won't say publicly because I don't want anybody else to steal our process. But I feel like we truly get to know, some of these kids. You have some of the kids that come in with, what you have gotten just through your intel. And I feel like some guys you see a totally different person. Now, again, it's a job interview. Everybody's best face is on. But I feel like when we've sat down with these kids, you get the genuine person of who they really are. And so, that I feel is what makes our process really cool when we bring guys in for the top 30.
Okay, Rand Carthon earlier today saying, we didn't bring in C.J. Stroud, but Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly met with him at Pro Day, and they gave the thumbs up, so that's good. Which is a little surprising if you're the general manager and you're going to be making this kind of decision, that you would just say, I took his word for it instead of bringing the kid in, especially now that we know that it doesn't look like he's going to go to the Texans. But I had the conspiracy theory on Friday on this program that the Titans apparently liked C.J. Stroud from the jump. The Titans went to his pro day. Vrabel met with him one-on-one, or I guess Tim Kelly was there too, but Tim Kelly's an Ohio State guy just like Vrabel. They met with C.J. Stroud privately, and I do wonder, because, again, 18th percentile, I do wonder if maybe C.J. Stroud tanked the S2 test, and that the Titans know they can't wait till 11 for Stroud, but they're moving him off of 2, and he may be available in a trade with Seattle at 5. And so I had a bunch of evidence behind it that kind of pointed to this C.J. Stroud, Mike Vrabel conspiracy theory. Now, I think we've got some more information or some things that we didn't think about. And I am adding to the conspiracy. First off, the agent for C.J. Stroud is David Mulugeta, who was Deshaun Watson's agent. So when it comes to tanking the S2 test or C.J. Stroud not doing well, I've asked the question, where is the agent? Where is the agent going to Adam Schefter and saying, no, he didn't score an 18? Where's the agent? And then I thought about, okay, Nick Caserio, the general manager of the Texans, he's been there now. This is his 3rd draft, so he's got 2 drafts under his belt. He's drafted 1 quarterback. It was Davis Mills in the 2nd round out of Stanford 2 years ago. Who was the offensive coordinator of the Texans then? It was Tim Kelly. So who would know what Nick Caserio's process is when it comes to looking for a quarterback? It would be Tim Kelly. So what if in this process, the Titans are sitting there after the combine when TD said on this show that the Titans really like C.J. Stroud, and they're sitting around there saying, how do we get Stroud to fall to us? And part of it is, hey, Caserio, and I don't know Caserio, but I've been around him before, and I felt like Caserio is, when you meet him, he's like a very fit person with a very defined jawline. He's very disciplined. Floyd would talk about the way his workouts and his eating habits and everything in New England. Very disciplined. And somebody like that will look at the numbers and the standards and say, well, we can't accept that. And you'll say, but watch him. He's great. Yeah, but we can't accept this. And Tim Kelly would know. Because Tim Kelly was the offensive coordinator in Houston when they drafted Davis Mills. So he would know what it is that Nick Caserio's looking for and what could move Nick Caserio off his pick. So I'm actually more of the mindset that this tank could be in. And everybody says, oh, yeah, you tell me a player that doesn't want more money And I'm like, think about this. David Mulligetta is the agent of the Texans. Or the agent. He's definitely not the agent for the Texans. The agent for C.J. Stroud. He was Deshaun Watson's agent. He knows how much of a crap hole that Houston organization is. So even if C.J. Stroud were to be drafted by the Texans at 2, and I don't know what the difference between 2 and 6 is as far as the money's concerned. And again, you're going to have to get to 5 or 6 if you want the quarterback that you want. And you may not even be able to do that because Bryce Young may be the quarterback you want. He's gone at 1. Will Levis is the betting favorite to go number 2. So even if you like Levis, you may not be able to get him. But you're going to have to get up to 5 or 6 if you want one of these other 2 guys. And you want to know that you got him. And so what's the difference between 2 and 6? But if you go to an organization that you trust a lot more than, say, the Texans, I think that plays a factor. And I don't even want to get into the fact that I was the one that said that Kevin Byard asked for his release, which I was told, and honestly, I still kind of believe. And Rand Carthon today twice went to that. And the one time was looking right at me when he said it. And I don't back down off of what I said. I know where I got it from. I know what I said. But they got so mad about that. They didn't get mad about the shopping Derrick Henry thing. They didn't make a big deal about that. But they made a big deal about the KB thing. Well, KB's agent is David Mulligetta. And so maybe it was like, hey, we're working with this agent. And then this comes out, and this might screw our whole conspiracy of trying to keep him away from the Texans, keep him away from the Colts, and make sure he ends up a Titan. Again, the one thing I'll keep saying about the conspiracy theory is it's a conspiracy theory. Because people are saying, wait a minute, are you guys crazy? Do you really think this? I'm like, it's a conspiracy theory, people. The people that actually believe conspiracy theories, like about 9/11 or COVID or whatever, those people, they don't think they're conspiracy theories. They think like, no, this is it, and you need to wake up and open your eyes. You need to do your research. I'm not telling you to do your research on this. I'm just saying that there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that could point to a C.J. Stroud Titans conspiracy to have him tank in the draft so that they can get him and not the crummy Texans. And I wouldn't want to go to the Texans either. And boy, I said when the Texans hired DeMeco Ryans, I said that I didn't think that DeMeco Ryans was the right call for the Texans because they need to draft a quarterback and develop a quarterback. And so I'd rather have a Sean Payton do that. And it's like, well, they may be able to take a defensive player. And I'm like, better be Bruce Smith. I mean, you better be passing on Joey Harrington to draft Julius Peppers. That's all I'll say about that. Texter says the S2 founders need to pay their PR team a tip because they're doing excellent damage control. People are eating it up. They're carefully choosing their words, and it's beautiful PR. I don't know if it's good PR or bad PR. I mean, here's the thing, right? Let's say C.J. Stroud gets drafted 7th overall by the Raiders, and C.J. Stroud goes on to be the next Tom Brady. I don't think that's very good PR for S2 because at that point, I don't think S2 matters anymore. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, they said C.J. Stroud wasn't. And look at C.J. Stroud. He's the best quarterback in the league. Now, if C.J. Stroud turns into Mariota, then I think everybody will look at S2 and say, physically gifted, hard worker, dedicated individual, good person, but he just couldn't process it. He just didn't have it when push came to shove. That's ultimately what happened to Marcus. And I think the Titans did their part in ruining him. But, I mean, I think you could put Joe Burrow on Vanderbilt's team, and Joe Burrow would stay Joe Burrow. So, ultimately, I think Marcus had all the tools to be a good quarterback, but he just didn't have it. And that's what the S2 test is. The processing, the anticipation, the retention, all of those things. Just didn't have it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. I think I know who the Titans want to take in the first round. It just kept coming back to me over and over and over again, and we will get to that next here on Stillman & Company, 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in on the program today. And be sure to join us for the second annual Music City Golf Tournament presented by Gary Force Acura, benefiting Souls for Souls on June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebrities to support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win some awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at thegamenashville.com/golf.
Every day we are live and local.
Blown out in one game against a team that's just flat out better than you.
And your source for Nashville sports.
How many needs are you going to create for yourself this offseason?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willie Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loan, consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Want to enter the construction field as a career? Make good money and finish with no debt and earn while you learn. Average starting salary over $18 an hour. First year of college averages $10,000. 4 years of our Construction Trades Academy, a total of $8,000 to $9,600. Applications are open with first-year scholarships available. CTANash.com. ABC Greater Tennessee Construction Trades Academy. Apply today. CTANash.com.
Now, your Game Center update.
It's officially NFL Draft Week. The first round of the NFL Draft will take place on Thursday night. Teams are finalizing their plans, and Titans GM Ran Carthon met with the media today. Carthon talked about the opportunities the Titans have at pick 11.
For this organization to be picking at 11 with the success that they've had here, it's kind of unprecedented. So ultimately picking that high, you want to be able to come away with what we would call a blue player. You know, a player that's going to come in and contribute to you immediately with the hopes of never having to pick up this high again.
There are 2 NBA playoff games on tap for tonight. The Heat tried to take a 3-1 series lead versus the Bucks, and the Grizzlies are looking to even their series versus the Lakers tonight in the late game. And don't miss the latest edition of the Commodore Hour tonight beginning at 6 o'clock on 94.9 The Fan. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Base.
Stillman & Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 106.3.
Cranks it, he scores! On both sides of the one big possession. Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman & Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 1025, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. I just got an email from YouTube TV, and last week I had the opportunity to buy Sunday ticket in the pre-sale and save $100, and obviously I did. And they sent me an email. We'd love to get feedback on why you signed up for NFL Sunday Ticket. I'm not taking your survey. You have access to everything I watch. You know why I bought Sunday Ticket. Because I love football. And because the draft is this week. It's upon us. It's right here. And every team has to do their pre-draft media conference. Ran Carthon today took questions I was surprised Vrabel was not there. I really was. After all the talk about being aligned and collaborative, deep down inside, I just think that Vrabel didn't want to do it. And that's why Vrabel didn't do it. I don't want to answer those questions. So he didn't do it. But I was a little stunned by that after all the talk about being aligned and collaborative. But I'm trying to parse between what Ran Carthon said and what it actually means. And I walked away from that press conference thinking that the Tennessee Titans want to take Will Levis in the first round of Thursday's draft. One, you may not be able to take Will Levis because right now he is the betting favorite, according to FanDuel, to go number 2 overall to the Texans. 2, all the reports are, and I don't completely believe them, but Indianapolis loves Will Levis, and they're at 4. So if Houston doesn't take him at 2, it's almost like you'd have to get to 3 in order to get Will Levis. And third, I know you all hate Will Levis. Now, I like Anthony Richardson more than I like Will Levis, but I don't hate Will Levis. I think you all hate Will Levis. And for whatever it's worth, according to the reports, he scored very well on the S2 cognition test, which I think would be a good sign for the people that are souring on Stroud for them to like Levis. Now, here are some of the things Ran Carthon said. And I want to walk into this by completely admitting that I thought on Friday they liked a quarterback and that I thought the quarterback they liked was Levis. So maybe this is confirmation bias as much as anything else. But the first thing that stood out to me, I asked him about Brock Purdy and Brock Purdy's score on the S2 test, which was reported as the highest of the quarterbacks last year. And if that meant something to him, considering that, well, he had a front row seat for Brock Purdy. Here's what he said.
What did it mean to you that Brock reportedly scored the best of all the quarterbacks last year, and then you saw in San Francisco how he processed the game as a rookie?
Again, I'm hearing that Brock it doesn't surprise me, but I think more than anything, you have to know the human that Brock is, right? Like Brock knew that he wasn't the tallest, the fastest, or had the strongest arm, but I legitimately saw this kid prepare every game. You know, as you know, you hear it all the time. You know, you hear guys say, I'm preparing as if I'm going to be the starter, right? I saw him do that. His seat was right across the row from mine. So whether he was inactive or active on our flights to away games, he put in the work. So I don't know if the S2 picks that up, you know, but I saw the work and the type of human he was that I think supersedes any type of cognitive testing.
I mean, goodness gracious, it was everything short of, and I want Brock Purdy to join my family because I love him so much. I want Brock Purdy to marry my daughter because I love him so much. I mean, that was the next step in that. So then he was asked about evaluating quarterbacks and getting to know quarterbacks. Here's what Ran Carthon said today.
And then when you're watching the film, like you take a guy like Levis who has 23 interceptions over the last 2 years. Like, how do you go about, okay, what's the reason for this? How did that happen? Like, how do you weigh in, factors with those type of things?
Those things you got to, you have to have an understanding of what they're trying to do offensively. It could have been a million things that could have happened that could have led to those turnovers. You don't want to always, charge that one person with said turnover. However, you got to work through it. And then when you get your hands on the player, like, hey, let's talk through these situations and what happened here and hear their explanation for it.
Okay, let's get them in front of us and let's say, okay, what happened here? But if you put the work in and you explain it to me, then I can look away the interceptions. Then he was asked, and this is kind of a difficult question to understand from Terry McCormick, but it's not a bad question because I do think it matters. And it's about how to evaluate quarterbacks, given the fact that these offenses in college are kind of bull crap, right? Tennessee's offense is bull crap. Ohio State's offense is bull crap. What Marcus ran at Oregon, it's like you're never going to run that in the NFL. And so he was asked about how to evaluate that. Here's what Ran Carthon said today.
With the quarterback position, everything has changed so much in the college game. Do you have to evaluate these guys differently, maybe coming out now than you did 10 years ago when most guys were pocket passers?
Yeah, I don't know if it's evaluate them differently. You just have to see what concepts carry over, to what you do. And then, again, once you get them in front of you, now you can talk concept-wise and see what they know from a processing, standpoint. You have to understand that, most of these offenses nowadays, it just allows, in college, it allows for guys to play quicker and sooner, right? So you condense some of the verbiage and wording. And some of these guys are operating off of, the signs and the boards and have never really operated in a huddle. So there are going to be growth, in those places. But more so, you just look for the carryover. In terms of schematics and concepts, and see how they process that. If they can handle that, and they have their attributes that makes them good quarterbacks, and it should be fine.
Okay, now what we talk about the carryover of schematics. Now, one of those four guys not only runs a pro style offense, but also runs the offense that you run. It's Will Levis. Now, you run more of the McVay style of the Shanahan system, but his offensive coordinator the year he was good at Kentucky was Liam Cohen. And Liam Cohen was the quarterback's coach in L.A. before showing up to be the offensive coordinator at UK and then left last year to go be the OC with the Rams. Now, he's back at Kentucky, but that's your system. So he's talking about the carryover and seeing, we can go over with Anthony Richardson. And I don't know the Florida system. I think it's more of a pro-style offense than Tennessee is. But, is Florida looking over at a card and saying, okay, let's see. Sonic the Hedgehog, Evander Holyfield, and a garden hose. Ready? Break. I don't know. But, again, I know that the offense that you run, Ohio State is not a pro-style offense. Ohio State is one of those janky college offenses. And Tennessee is a college offense through and through. This is, what are those takeaways? The schematics. That's what he does. What concepts will translate? The concepts he runs. How much can they interpret? How much does it carry over? What he did in college. And then that takes me to the final cut where he was asked about, again, the quarterback play, and he was asked about the tough part of gauging the QB.
What's been the toughest part to gauge at the quarterback position in your experience over the years?
That's a really good question. The toughest part to gauge, it's really more so the carryover from, schematics, what they know. And, again, this is all predictive. We're all, taking a shot is playing the lottery and hoping that you win and that you hit on someone. Quarterbacks generally come in a little wired different, and I think on some level, whatever, as long as they're willing to put in the work, and they work extremely hard and they have some leadership qualities, that everybody may not end up being a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I think there's some level of success that could be had at the position.
The carryover. And again, the carryover. Will Levis's offense is your offense. So this idea of, it's all kind of a crapshoot and putting him in there. And you want to know why Will Levis is the betting favorite to go number 2 to Houston? Because their head coach is DeMeco Ryans, who comes from San Francisco. The offensive coordinator of the Texans is Brian Slowick, who was, I believe, a special offensive assistant last year for the 49ers. He ran that system. His offensive coordinator last year was Rich Scangrello at Kentucky, who was the previous quarterbacks coach of the 49ers. So when Rand keeps harping about the carryover, and he keeps talking about the schematics, and he talks about being able to talk through the concepts, and he says it over and over and over and over again, I think they're leaning Levis. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll be able to get Will Levis because, again, right now, he's the betting favorite to go second, and you can't get to 2. But I was a little surprised at how much he talked about the carryover and the schematics, and it wasn't like he pointed out Levis, but it points back to Levis if you know the schematics with which Will Levis played in. And I told you guys the other day, and again, if I had to rank them, It'd be Bryce Young 1, it'd be Anthony Richardson 2, it'd be Will Levis 3, and it'd be C.J. Stroud 4, and it's 4 because of the S2 score. But the quarterback that is most like Steve McNair, in my opinion, off of watching just some college tape, was Levis. Levis is weird, but he's a tough dude. Shot up the shoulder last year. Shot up the foot. I think Vrabel likes that kind of stuff. So I think they want Levis if they can get him. 615-737-1025. How would you feel if on Thursday the Tennessee Titans trade up, let's say, to 3, and they draft Will Levis? They trade up to 5, and they draft Will Levis. They trade up to 6 if he's there, and they draft Will Levis. 615-737-1025. And what about this race in the AFC South to Will Levis? Houston's the betting favorite. You know, Indianapolis for months has loved Will Levis. And now here you are. I think you might like Levis. What do we make of it? 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Attention, buckaroos. It's time for the Franklin Rodeo. So saddle up and hold on to your lasso. It's 3 days of bull riding, calf roping, western wear, funny clowns, and some of the most talented horses you've ever seen. Join the Stampede from May 18th to May 20th. The Franklin Rodeo is held at the Williamson County Ag Expo Park and is brought to you by Ram Rodeo, Franklin Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Williamson Health, Event 1 FX, and Wesley Mortgage. Tickets on sale now at franklinrodeo.com. It's a buckin' good time.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
O'Reilly. Protect your vehicle's engine with Syntec and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec Premium Full Synthetic Motor Oil is formulated for today's engines to dissipate heat and friction and reduce wear. Get 5 quarts of Syntec Full Synthetic and a MicroGuard Select filter for just $33.99. Limit supply. See store for details. Get Syntec only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I know Kentucky has had a lot of success over the last couple of years, but Will Levis right now, we're talking about competing with a Bryce Young at Alabama or a C.J. Stroud at Ohio State. And you mentioned all the guys that Levis lost after 21. If you put him in a, Ohio State, Alabama type talent environment, what kind of quarterback do you think we would have seen? And how much, if you were still coaching in the NFL, would you be thinking about that when comparing Levis to these other quarterbacks?
I think that's a very valid point. I mean, you look at not to knock our talent whatsoever. We had some, really good football players, and Will was throwing to Wandell and some good players. But you look at Ohio State, you look at Alabama, the 10 other players around them are, at an extremely high level right now. And then you play in Tennessee, you talk about Hooker. Well, those guys are running around free now a lot of times. And I'm not downplaying what they ask their quarterbacks to do. I really respect what Tennessee does offensively. But they're throwing us, good scheme, really good stuff, opening guys up and all that. And you look at how Will has been truly having to operate in an NFL system for the last 2 years. And I think if you do put some of those guys around him, you do make it his job to truly be a pro every single day. I just think that you would see even a better version of Will Levis, and I think his ceiling is extremely high.
That was Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator at Kentucky, on with me last weekend on SiriusXM. And I asked the question about if you were to take Will Levis and stick him at Alabama or stick him at Ohio State, what would it look like? Because it's easy when you're C.J. Stroud and you've got 2 first-round picks at wide receiver, a first-round pick at left tackle, a second-round pick at center, maybe a first-round pick if he doesn't get too fat at right guard. It's easy when you've got all of that. And it's funny because a couple weeks ago, a caller called into the show and said, watch Anthony Richardson. He was horrible versus Georgia. So I watched it, and then I figured, well, I'll watch Levis and I'll watch Hooker. And even though Will Levis in Kentucky scored 6 points, I actually thought that Will Levis played really well. Will Levis starts the game. They start the game, and Jenny Dell, the sideline reporter, is talking about how they shot up his shoulder every week and they shoot up his toe. And Will Levis gets out there, and he was the only guy on that team. And there were guys dropping balls right in the hands, just dropping them. And I'm not here to all of a sudden go all in for Will Levis because I think the Titans like him the best. But I am telling you that a lot of people are like, hey, sucks today. Gentry Estes said to me at the press conference, I said, yeah, I watched the Georgia game and I was really impressed with Will Levis's toughness. And Gentry was like, didn't they score 6 points in that game? And I'm like, there we go. Just looking at the box scores. Can't do that. And again, Liam Cohen's the only guy that I guess Matt Jones came on our show, Kentucky Sports Radio, at the SEC tournament, and we asked him about Levis, and he was really excited about Will Levis too. And those are the only 2 people I've talked to that know him. And so I think that this could be real, that not only are the Texans probably going to take him at 2, but that the Titans probably really like him. And then with Indy, I've always thought it was a smokescreen, but that might just be because I like Richardson more than I liked Levis. 615-737-1025 is our phone number here on the program. Texter into the text line says that Will Levis is the type of player who will get Mike Vrabel fired. How do you know that? All I ever hear are the reasons why not to draft these kids. And I can give you a reason for all of them. Bryce Young's too small. I know everybody's like, well, that's okay. We can move on from that. Remember what Tom Landry used to tell Bill Parcells. You start drafting for exception, and pretty soon you'll have an entire team full of exceptions. And so you draft a guy who's too small, and he gets out there, and he's not going to have the Alabama offensive line traditionally in front of him, and he got banged up last year. You think 180 pounds? These big old fat boys in the NFL? You don't think that could be an issue? I can make the argument about C.J. Stroud's S2. I can make the argument about Hendon Hooker's college offense. I can make the argument about Anthony Richardson's inexperience. There's always an argument against these guys. That's why Mahomes went 10th. That's why Brady went in the 6th round. There's always some kind of excuse. Texter says, Will Levis is nothing like McNair. McNair was an incredible passer at Alcorn State. McNair set an NCAA record with 5,799 yards from scrimmage and 44 touchdowns in one season. Levis only had a total of 46 touchdowns in 4 seasons at Kentucky. Pass on Levis. Let me say this. This goes back to the question that I asked Liam Cohen that we just cut back with. And the reason I asked it is exactly because of why the general manager who took Steve McNair took him. And a lot of people thought, well, Alcorn State, I mean, they don't run an NFL offense. He's not ready for the NFL. He'll have to sit. Why would you do that when Kerry Collins is at Penn State and Kerry Collins already runs a much more NFL-type system? And Floyd used to always say, and he said it on this show, and he'd say it to me off the air, and he'd say it on the air. And he'd say, I would always say, okay, how would Steve look at Penn State with all of those players and that offense, and how would Kerry look at Alcorn State? And so you're telling me that Steve McNair, I believe Alcorn State's in the SWAC. Is that right? I think they are. But I don't even know, we know the competition at Alcorn State is not exactly Louisiana State. And so I would say, okay, Will Levis in 4 years, but really in 2, because he didn't start at Penn State, which is a concern, by the way. But Will Levis in 2 years had 40-something touchdowns. And McNair had 40 touchdowns in 1 year. If you put Will Levis in the SWAC, how many more touchdowns would he score when he's there by himself like he was at Kentucky and he's not playing in the SEC? Because he was playing the toughest competition. And it's not that I'm taking up for Levis, which is what I think a lot of people are already going to say that I'm doing. It's like, oh, you're banging the drum for Levis. You like Levis now. I've told you. Young 1, Richardson 2, Levis 3, Stroud 4. And that's based on the report about the S2 scores. And so I'm not saying I am giving you the reasons why I think these people like Will Levis and what I think they see in Will Levis and what I see with Will Levis. All these people, all my friends, they text me, Will Levis stinks. I'm like, I like Levis. And they're like, what? How? And I was like, I just see it. I understand more. Now, let me say this. I do not like the bathroom selfies. Like, dude, you're about to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. That is very immature, very Zach Mettenberger of him. And I don't like that. I do not like that. That bothers me. I am a little worried about his ability to put touch on the ball because he's so yoked. I am a little worried about the decision-making. Against Georgia, he threw an interception down by 3 at his own 18-yard line. Now, I don't know if they factored this into it, that they couldn't kick, because at one point in the game, they tried a 38-yard field goal, and the guy shanked the crap out of it. So maybe it's just, we can't kick anyway, so take your shot. I don't know. But when you're playing the Georgia Bulldogs and you're at the 18-yard line, you can't take that risk into the end zone because you need those points. Anytime you're going to get points against the Georgia defense, you can't just give them the ball. And that is concerning. Texture says, isn't looking at the box scores pretty much the whole point of playing football? Yes and no. Again, I can do this with all of the college players. In fact, that's what I'll do. Because I think there's a common misconception here about college stats. I keep hearing this when it comes to Anthony Richardson and his accuracy. Now, I love Anthony Richardson. Dan Orlovsky might love Anthony Richardson more than I do, and he just completely excuses Anthony Richardson's accuracy. And I'm like, look, man, I watched a Georgia game. He made some beautiful throws that I almost peed my pants. I was so excited about. But he also missed some pretty wide open throws. We need to be a little honest. But there is one rule that I have. If the Titans go quarterback next week, we'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. I guess this is like Bill Maher's show, right? I got a new rule. And so we will go over that new rule next. 615-737-1025 here on today's program. Do not miss Friday night's draft coverage, right? Thursday we'll be at Twin Peaks and Cool Springs. Friday night, join Caroline Fenton, Derek Mason, and Chris Sanders on location as they will be live for day 2 of the draft, rounds 2 and 3 at the Inglewood Wingstop, located at 3300 Gallatin Pike, where flavor gets its wings. The first 100 people stop by during the draft, then they will receive a coupon for 5 free boneless wings for their next visit.
All the big plays. All the big stories.
If you're not ready to play in this league, you will lose. I don't care who you're playing.
All in one place. We are are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Because I love the sport.
We played the way we needed to.
Why would he make that move?
360, he slams it home.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormonal deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve your quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Bite a Bit Thai and Sushi in the heart of East Nashville. Get half off a $30 gift card while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Featuring all the best Thai food, sushi, and cocktails, plus an amazing bar and environment. You can eat a bit and bite a bit with this week's half-off deal. Check out biteabitnashville.com. That's Bite a Bit in East Nashville. Half off at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Did you know that more than 4,000 children in Nashville are experiencing homelessness right now? And across Middle Tennessee, that number grows to more than 9,000. Hi, I'm Jamie with Souls for Souls, a global nonprofit based right here in Nashville, and we're on a mission to provide these kids with a brand new pair of athletic shoes through our For Every Kid program, because we know that something as simple as a pair of shoes can change a child's future. Students who receive these new shoes tell us things like, I can't believe these shoes are mine. I finally have something new of my own and don't feel left out. And my feet feel like they can breathe. We're joining forces with our friends here at 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament to help provide new shoes to kids across Nashville. It's all happening June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. Come join us for an afternoon of fellowship and fun, all in support of a great cause. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is Rick Stockstill, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
And everyone has said, well, Anthony Richardson, 52% completion percentage, that's a concern. No, it's not. The drops were so ridiculous for Florida last year. He's got everything physically that you want, and all reports that you hear say he's very intelligent, great work ethic, and really good leadership. I look at the young player and I say, I don't know, as long as he coached the right way, how he fails.
Okay, so Dan Orlovsky says we're just going to dismiss the fact that Anthony Richardson's a 53% passer in college. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Now, I love Anthony Richardson. I think that Anthony Richardson, because he's 20 years old, you can coach him up. I think you can make him better. I think his footwork, you can work on his fundamentals. I mean, look, we all remember what certain guys looked like in college. I mean, do you remember Matt Leinart at USC? I thought that Matt Leinart at USC, the second I saw him as a sophomore, I thought he was going to be the number one pick in the draft. I'm like, this guy is a superstar. And then he won the Heisman as a junior. Then he ended up finishing third in the Heisman as a senior. And Matt Leinart never did anything in the NFL. So here's the rule. And this is the rule that I want everybody to remember. Your college stats when it comes to being a passer in the NFL. Now, I don't know about the other positions because I haven't studied it as much over the last 6 weeks. Your college stats do not matter. I want to say that again because I'm sure that we'll hear all about C.J. Stroud's 85 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 69.3 completion percentage, 22-4 as a quarterback. And they'll say, how can you not want that? Your stats in college do not mean anything. Tom Brady, accurate passer, right? He was a 61% passer in college. Vince Young, inaccurate passer, right? Was 62. So think about this. Vince Young, And you all remember Vince Young. And you all remember that little sidearm motion he had that kind of looked like he was trying to cut the ball, like put slice on it like a tennis shot. And he'd throw that little sidearm ball right into the arms of a safety. You all remember that. That was more accurate in college than Tom Brady's 61%. RG3 played in the Big 12. Won the Heisman Trophy. Number 2 pick. Rookie of the year in Washington. And guess what? He was a bust. He was a higher rated passer in the Big 12 than Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. Now, Patrick Mahomes has been a starter for 5 years in the NFL. And for 5 years, Patrick Mahomes has hosted an AFC championship game. Patrick Mahomes, if he retired today, if he pulled a Michael Jordan and just decided, I've done enough, I'm ready to hang it up, Mahomes would go to Canton and get a gold jacket. And he was not as high of a rated passer as RG3, who could not throw in the NFL. So, again, we're talking about your college stats and why they don't matter. RG3, higher rated passer. What about the wins and losses? Will Levis didn't win enough at Kentucky. Anthony Richardson was 6-6 over the last 2 years. C.J. Stroud, 22-4. Bryce Young carried that Alabama team. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, they're not winners. Guess what? John Elway's last 2 years in college, he was 4-7 as a junior and 5-6 as a senior. That's 9 wins and 13 losses. That ain't good. Anthony Richardson, as a 20-year-old, was better at 6-6. Guess what? Tim Tebow was 26-2 his last 2 years. So John Elway, great NFL quarterback, number 1 pick in the draft, multiple Super Bowl appearances, 2 Super Bowls at the end, gold jacket, won 4 games as a junior. Tim Tebow won a national championship. Who would you rather have? Matt Leinart, the great Matt Leinart. And I loved Matt Leinart at USC, and I thought Matt Leinart was the best quarterback in the country for 3 years, and I thought he'd be, you pick him number 1, and Matt Leinart would be Matt Leinart. 99 touchdowns, 23 interceptions. I mean, that's not as good as Marcus's 105 and 14 at Oregon, but that's pretty good. And we talk about Will Levis. He throws too many interceptions. Dan Marino, 79 and 69 in college. Dan Marino threw 69 interceptions in college. Marcus Mariota threw 14. Who's the better NFL player? And when it goes, again, to college and college performances and what you've seen, and this is why you don't like Richardson and you don't like Levis, it's because you watched Levis play Tennessee and they got beat and he didn't throw for 100 yards and you thought, this guy sucks. And you don't like Richardson because Florida, a school that we assume year in and year out is supposed to be good, even though they just fired their coach and their team was terrible. And other than Osiris Torrance, there's nobody on that team that's even remotely discussed in this draft. We just assume Florida's good. So when they lose to Vandy, even if Richardson throws for 400 yards in the game like he did, we don't give him any credit for that. Because what you saw on TV was them losing, so he must suck. You remember when we were watching TV and Jalen Hurts got benched in the national championship game? I mean, Jalen Hurts couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Jalen Hurts wasn't even good in the championship game the year before that against Clemson when they lost to Deshaun Watson. And so Nick Saban, because he didn't have a choice in that national championship game, pulls Jalen Hurts. And then they win. Then they have a quarterback battle between him and Tua. And Tua wins the battle. Jalen Hurts just signed for $51 million a year. So what you see when somebody is 20 years old or what they do in college, and specifically the stats, they don't matter. College stats mean absolutely nothing. Somebody sent me a tweet last weekend. And it said, Tom Brady, great accuracy, Joe Montana, great accuracy. Vince Young, poor accuracy. Marcus Mariota, poor accuracy. And I said, you do know that Vince Young and Marcus Mariota had better accuracy in college than Tom Brady and Joe Montana. You do know that, right? The accuracy stats. Now, I'm not going to do what Dan Orlovsky did where I just completely dismiss Anthony Richardson's 53% passing and say that that's not a concern, because it is. And his footwork and his mechanics and his inexperience, those are all concerns. And if he fails as a quarterback, it will be because Anthony Richardson was not able to climb the ladder from where he is now as a 20-year-old to where we'd really like him to be at 24, 25, 26 years old, when as a quarterback, he's starting to enter his prime. But this idea of like, well, I mean, Steve McNair threw for all these yards in college and Will Levis didn't, so Will Levis stinks. That's not how it works. Or Anthony Richardson didn't win games in college. Neither did John Elway, and Tim Tebow did. Marcus did. Again, John Elway won 4 games as a junior. Marcus was 36-5 as a starter at Oregon. And I love Marcus, the guy. He's an excellent human being, but you all know Marcus doesn't have in the heart right here. He doesn't have the chutzpah that John Elway did as a quarterback. You know that. Texter into the text line says, you're talking about stats. What about winning? Isn't that the point of playing football? Okay. So I guess we can't draft guys that didn't win a lot in college. Josh Allen, we can't draft you. Patrick Mahomes, we can't draft you. Anthony Richardson, we can't draft you. But we will draft Tim Tebow then. We will draft Marcus. We will draft Jameis Winston. We will draft Baker Mayfield. We will draft all the, because they won. Let's draft Craig Krenzel, because he won a national championship as the quarterback at Ohio State. Let's draft T. Martin, because he won the national championship at Tennessee. Let's draft all these guys. Let's draft Cardale Jones at Ohio State. Let's draft all the Ohio State quarterbacks. Let's draft them. Let's draft A.J. McCarron. Let's draft Greg McElroy. Got to draft him. You're talking about stats. Let's talk about winning. Okay. Can't draft Dan Marino. Can't draft John Elway. Can't draft those guys. They didn't win enough. Texter in the text line, Josh says, we do not like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson because they are not NFL-level quarterbacks. It's that simple. Make all the excuses you want. They aren't NFL quarterbacks. I'm sorry. What defines an NFL quarterback? So I'm trying to understand. Anthony Richardson is 20 years old. Anthony's 6'4". He has the height of a quarterback. Anthony runs a 4.4 40, which is faster than any quarterback on record. Anthony Richardson has an unbelievable arm. And Anthony Richardson is 20 years old. So if he's this at 20, with good coaching, you would expect him to get better at 21, better at 22, better at 23. What makes him not an NFL quarterback? I don't understand. Like, what made Jameis Winston an NFL quarterback? And I thought Jameis Winston was awesome in college. And I thought Jameis Winston, I mean, he was big, he was strong, he put up all those great stats, won all those games at Florida State. I mean, I thought Jameis Winston was awesome. But what makes him an NFL quarterback that doesn't make Anthony Richardson an NFL quarterback? What doesn't make Will Levis an NFL quarterback? He's got an NFL arm. He's got NFL size. He's got NFL athleticism. He runs an NFL system. C.J. Stroud does not run an NFL system. What Hendon Hooker does, I mean, Hendon Hooker doesn't do any of the things that an NFL quarterback does. So I don't understand, like, this just basic premise of, well, we don't like these guys because they're not NFL quarterbacks. What does that mean? I do not know what that means. I mean, so you could say, well, we don't like them. Texter says RG3 is a terrible example. Do Sam Bradford. What do you mean? RG3 stunk in the NFL. RG3 was a higher-rated passer in the Big 12 than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I guess Matt Leinart, I keep going back to Leinart, right? What about Matt Leinart, when you watched him play in college at USC, was not, this dude's going to be awesome in the NFL? And he never made it. Didn't work in Arizona. Didn't work in Houston. I think he might have played for the Raiders. I can't remember. It didn't work. And I don't know how it didn't work. Because in college, I thought he was freaking awesome. So I don't get this. Anthony Richardson's not an NFL quarterback. On Thursday, within the first hour and a half of that broadcast, Anthony Richardson's going to be on an NFL team. He is an NFL quarterback. Malik, who went in the third round, is not an NFL quarterback. More of your phones. 615-737-1025. Again, Rand Carthon, did he hint that he likes Will Levis? 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 through the game.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase and Michelle, and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Brought to you by Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
A show that lives and breathes sports.
Focus in, focus in, focus in.
From the SEC.
Credit to the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Ohio States of the world.
To the Preds.
They've been in a lot of really tight games, but they're not winning enough of them.
To the Titans.
He's talking about what this franchise has built over the years.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
What is this? Check it out.
Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
At pick 11, I would imagine you don't expect to be there another time. So having a pick like this, like how much does that weigh into the whole process of possibly getting a franchise quarterback?
Right. So to your point, you rather be picking at 32, every year. You'd rather be, at least 31, 32 every year. And for this organization to be picking at 11 with the success that they've had here, it's kind of unprecedented. So ultimately picking that high, you want to be able to come away with what we would call a blue player, a player that's going to come in and contribute to you immediately. So with the hopes of never having to pick up this high again.
There you go. That was Rand Carthon with pick 11. And again, a lot of people, do you think they're going quarterback? Do you not think they're going quarterback? I was on News 2 yesterday, and Corey Curtis asked me, are they going quarterback? I'm like, dude, they don't know if they're going to go quarterback. They have no idea how this board is going to shake out. Now, I think they'd like to, and my gut, just listening to Rand Carthon today, is I think he'd like to go Will Levis. Let's go to your phones as promised. Tom is up next on Will Levis. Thank you for calling the show. What's up, Tom?
Hey, not much there, Jared. I'm just finally glad to hear you have some positive comments on Will Levis. I tell you what, like you said, if he was put on a better team, I think you would have saw the real Will Levis. We lost a lot of linemen that was his good protection from last year, so he was pretty much a target this past season, and that's why his stats went low as they did. But you put him with a good NFL team, give him time to learn, I think he's going to be a really good quarterback, and I hope the Titans can get him, but I don't think they will be able to. Thank you.
I don't think they're going to be able to either. I mean, this is the thing, right? Is like, so I walk away from that press conference today, and I think that the Titans, and I'm just telling you, like, I think that the Titans are going, they want Will Levis. I do. But, I mean, right now, FanDuel Sportsbook says the betting favorite to go number 2 overall is Will Levis. And I cannot imagine the Houston Texans walking out of this draft and into next season with Davis Mills and Case Keenum on the roster. That Nick Caserio would walk into year 3 as a general manager and he would say, hey, wait till next year on the quarterback. I cannot imagine that. And I like Richardson more than I like Levis because I just like the talent of Anthony Richardson. But that's an investment, and it's going to take a while before it pays off. Levis, I think he's tough. I think he's got a strong arm. I think he runs an NFL-style offense which both you and the Texans run. And I don't know Levis the kid. I had Liam Cohen on my SiriusXM show last weekend, and he swore up and down about Will Levis. And it did mean something to me that Liam Cohen said those things. I mean, I don't think Liam Cohen would have come on the show if he was going to get on there and say, I think he's lazy, I think he stinks, I think he's a bum. I mean, I don't think that he would have done that, but it did mean something with how he talked about how Will Levis is a first guy in, last guy out kind of guy. And it just feels like the tea leaves are saying that the Houston Texans are going to take him at number 2, which is kind of wild to think about. But he did have Rich Gangrello as his offensive coordinator, who used to be the quarterback coach in San Francisco, and worked with D'Amico Ryans and Brian Slowick and all the guys there now. And my guess is that Scangrello running that system, there's not a lot of learning that he would have to do to get under center and take snaps for the Texans this upcoming season. Texter in the text line says, does blue player equal blue chip? I don't know. I guess that's what that means. Texter said, you said Kentucky only scoring 6 points against Georgia didn't matter. Then you said you can't look at the box score. If you're the only quarterback at the office and your team puts up 6 points, shouldn't that matter? I mean, again, I can tell you about all the points that Matt Leinart put up at USC. This is what I'm telling you. In fact, I'll just pull it up right now because I have it in the notes section on my phone about what I took away when I watched Will Levis play Georgia. And I watched all 3 quarterbacks play Georgia. I watched Anthony Richardson play Georgia. That was on a neutral field. I watched Will Levis play Georgia. That was in Kentucky. I watched Hendon Hooker play Georgia at Georgia. And there was no doubt and again, it's one game, but there was no doubt after watching those 3, Hendon Hooker was the worst quarterback of the group. Not even close. So I can go over each series in which I broke down what Will Levis did, but I'll just read you the summary. This is what I said about Will Levis's 6-point performance against Georgia. Now, they missed a 38-yard kick, which, they shanked a 38-yard kick. Now, I don't know if the Titans are going to be able to hit 38-yard kicks this year because I don't know who's going to be kicking for the Titans. And I do think they should draft, if he's available in the 7th round or maybe even the 6th round, Jake Moody out of Michigan. I think he's a great kicker. I think he's kicked in weather. I would draft him, and I would say you're the kicker. That's what I would do. I don't think they'll do that, though. But can't take for granted the Titans will make a 38-yard kick. But they missed a 38-yard kick. Levis, to me, had two big mistakes in that game. One, he threw an interception in a 3-0 game. He was down by 3 from his own 18. He tried to fit a ball into double coverage in the end zone, and it was an easy interception for Georgia. It was a bad decision. The second was right before the half, Will Levis, it was 3rd and short, and Gary Danielson on the TV broadcast said they need to get a first down. Not because they need to score before the half. I think it was 6-0 Georgia at the time. But they need to get a first down so that Georgia doesn't get the ball back. Will Levis threw the ball a couple of inches too high for the running back. He had to jump up to catch it. He landed. He fell down. If it were the NFL, he would have gotten up and run for a first down. Instead, he was just on the ground short of the sticks. They had to punt to Georgia, and Georgia scored before the half. And it's like, dude, you can't give Georgia an extra possession. But here's what I wrote about my summary. Quote, I thought Will Levis played well. In order to beat Georgia, he was going to have to be perfect, and he wasn't. His interception early in the game cost Kentucky 3 points, or would have with an NFL kicker. And that mistake was both mental and physical, and it can't happen against Georgia or in the NFL. Levis did have Levis really did have both substandard players around him and coaching. Too many times I questioned screen passes that clearly weren't working, and Levis had perfectly thrown balls dropped. Underlined. I felt like Levis gave his team a chance to win and showed his quick release, big arm, and toughness in this game, dealing with both shoulder and toe injuries. It wasn't, I think Will Levis is the best, but it was, I thought Will Levis played well. I watched that game. I thought he was tough. I thought he gave that team a chance to win. And again, I walked into it with the bias of they scored 6 points, and I think he stinks. And I didn't feel that way watching that game when I watched that individual game. Texter says, not everybody can be the first guy in and last guy out. He's back. Liam Cohen is the OC at Kentucky because, of course, he's going to hype Will Levis. Well, duh. But think about it this way. If you didn't like Will Levis, and I know plenty of guys that don't like their college coaches, and I'm not sure their college coaches like them. Like, I don't know if Jordan Rodgers and James Franklin have buried the hatchet, but it wasn't the coziest relationship between the two. So what happens is when somebody asks you to go on a radio show and you hate the guy, you just don't do it. Oh, we can't. We have meetings. We can't this. We can't. We just don't have the time. I asked a coach one time who had coached a former player. I asked him and knew a specific team if they'd come on a show because they knew the player and they knew the team. And the coach texted me back and says, I'm going to have to pass on that one. I don't have anything nice to say about the player or the team. And I was like, woo! And if I told you who it was and who the player was and who the team was, you guys would piss your pants. Can I say that on the radio? I think I can. Texter says, I don't trust left-handed quarterbacks. I think Levis is right-handed. And I mean, okay.
Pretty sure he's right-handed.
So I don't know where that's, the left-handed. I don't think any of these guys are left-handed, are they?
Leinart was.
That's the only reason why Leinart didn't work out, because he was left-handed?
I doubt it.
Texter says, both Levis and Richardson were not even good in high school. I don't care about high school. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school team.
Derrick Henry was really good in high school. I know that.
That is true. I don't care about high school. Sit here, text into the show about high school. Come on now. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. So Rand Carthon shut down one rumor today, and I think he might have opened a door on another, but it's still a rumor that I'm not necessarily buying. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. Let's give something away because I'm in a good mood. Be caller 5 right now, and you will see Breaking Benjamin with a pair of tickets at First Bank Amphitheater on May 3rd. That's caller 5 at 615-737-1025 for Breaking Benjamin at First Bank Amphitheater on May 3rd. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Tannehill, Henry right up the middle, touchdown.
touchdown, Tennessee. All the big stories.
The Titans' window to contend is however long Derrick Henry stays Derrick Henry.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Gets it back and scores.
Our execution was good. They have not found their groove. It's always great to win in this league. It's tough to win.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Tuning into the baseball game, monitoring the incoming storm, catching your favorite talk show. These are just a few of the reasons more than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio each month. And did you know AM radio is the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times? It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Sorry, but we actually have a wait list for our Monstera.
Shaw's greenhouse is really bringing in the green.
We can't keep snake plants in stock.
She needs a construction manager to build on her roots and grow.
We could add a whole section for ferns. And here we'd have dahlias, dahlias, and more dahlias.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Green Trees Company Dispensary and 102.5 The Game want to send you to see the legendary Steve Miller Band. Live April 30th at First Bank Amphitheater. Keep listening to Nashville's best sports talk all week long for your cue to call to win tickets to see Steve Miller Band, courtesy of Green Trees Company Dispensary.
Now, your Game Center update.
It's officially NFL Draft Week. The first round of the NFL Draft will take place on Thursday night. Teams are finalizing their plans, and Titans GM Ran Carthon met with the media today. Carthon talked about the opportunities the Titans have at pick 11.
For this organization to be picking at 11 with the success that they've had here, it's kind of unprecedented. So ultimately picking that high, you want to be able to come away with what we would call a blue player. You know, a player that's going to come in and contribute to you immediately with the hopes of never having to pick up this high again.
And the Aaron Rodgers saga is finally over. According to reports, the Packers and Jets have agreed on the terms to trade Rodgers to the Jets. New York receives Rodgers, the 15th overall pick, and a 5th-round pick. And the Packers get pick 13, a 2nd-round pick, a 6th-round pick, and a conditional 2nd-round pick for next season that will become a first if Rodgers plays in at least 65% of the Jets' snaps this season. There are 2 NBA playoff games on tap for tonight. The Heat tried to take a 3-1 series lead versus the Bucks, and the Grizzlies are looking to even their series versus the Lakers tonight in the late game. And don't miss the latest edition of the Commodore Hour tonight beginning at 6 o'clock on 94.9 The Fan. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Ran Carthon's press conference today where he talked about the NFL draft. Everybody wants the draft to come so all the salacious gossip and rumors can stop. And I'm a little depressed because what are we going to talk about? I mean, I know we're going to have a lot to talk about, but it's not the same. The speculation. I feed off of the speculation. It is quite an exciting time. So I woke up this morning. I actually did not catch this, and I even watched SportsCenter yesterday morning, and I did not catch this. Jeremy Fowler, who has to have, insider nuggets on Sunday mornings on SportsCenter, was on, and they were talking about the number 2 pick and it not being C.J. Stroud, and is it going to be Will Levis and blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden, Hannah Storm asked him about the Tennessee Titans, and Ryan Tannehill. And here's what Jeremy Fowler said.
All right, who else needs a quarterback? Hey, you need one. I need one. The Titans need one. They have the 11th pick. Matt Miller currently has them taking Will Levis.
Yep.
What can you share with us about the incumbent quarterbacks there?
Well, with Ryan Tannehill in place, teams I talked to do believe that Tannehill could be or is available via trade. He's got a $36 million cap hit. New GM Rand Carthon is resetting this roster in a big way. They're making some moves, and so right now they would need a replacement, though. They'd need somebody in place. So do they draft one? I've talked to some teams that believe that the Titans are looking at moving up or even moving back from number 11 because they have a lot of needs to fill. So it's not all about the quarterback position. So at least Ryan Tannehill is comfort food. He is available. They know what to expect.
Okay. So Jeremy Fowler's like, the sense I'm getting around the league is Tannehill's available. And I thought to myself, what? I'm like, who's Tannehill going to play for? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. All the quarterback spots are taken up, especially now because the Aaron Rodgers Jets deal is official. There's nowhere for Tannehill to go play quarterback this year. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. And then who's going to be your quarterback? So there was a rumor that came out from, I don't know, some former NFL player over the weekend and said that the Eagles were going to acquire Derrick Henry. And Rand Carthon made kind of a joke about it and laughed about it. And, you know, that some woman at an event said, don't trade Derrick. And he basically said he won't or something like that or whatever. And talked about how he's not going to negotiate in the public and that, you know, if the players don't hear it from me, then it doesn't matter. And it's like, dude, that's not really how speculation works, but I understand what you're saying. But anywho, so I gave him the opportunity to shut down the Ryan Tannehill rumors that, again, I'm not convinced make any sense. And here's what Rand Carthon said.
What about the personal side of these guys and the rumors that come out about their contracts? And it seems like it's been very persistent with rumors about Ryan, including yesterday on SportsCenter. Can you make it easier on the player, in this case on Ryan, to shut it down and say, no, like Ryan will be the quarterback this year?
So just to let you guys in, Ryan and I had a conversation back in February that was between Ryan and I and Ryan and our organization. So Ryan knows where he stands with us, and that's really all that matters to me.
What does that mean? I mean, what does that? So we had a conversation. Now, D-May said that what he thought when he heard that, and I listened to this when I was leaving the press conference, D-May said what he thought that meant was that they told Ryan Tannehill that they're going to take a quarterback this year, but that he's going to be the quarterback for the Titans, and they're going to draft a quarterback, and then they're going to let Tannehill go after this year's over. But the reason why I don't believe that is because I don't think that a general manager can tell a player, hey, we're going to take a quarterback this year in the draft unless they're picking number one, because you don't know if you're going to be sitting in that spot to take a quarterback. I mean, Fitz came on last week, and I don't believe this, but he said that he thinks it could go quarterback, 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 quarterback. Well, now you're picking 11, you can't draft a quarterback. So I don't think you can sit there and tell Tannehill, like, hey, we're going to draft a quarterback. And then I don't even think you can tell Tannehill that you're going to try to draft a quarterback, because the second that you tell a player, hey, we're going to draft this player, then that player's agent is going to Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport and is going to say, hey, I hear Tennessee is going to draft a quarterback. Or you run the risk of Tannehill saying, well, then I want out. And I don't think that that's the case with Tannehill either. So Rand Carthon had the opportunity to shut it down. Again, the deal's official now for Aaron Rodgers. So there's no spot for Ryan Tannehill to go to. And all Rand Carthon is saying is, Ryan and I had a discussion in February, and Ryan knows where he stands in this organization. Well, where's that? And so it means one of two things. It either means that Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback next year, and Rand Carthon just likes playing around with people, which I think is probably the case, or Rand Carthon doesn't have a clue. But it's one or the other. Because if Ryan Tannehill is not the quarterback this year, then who is going to be the quarterback? Anthony Richardson? It's not going to be Hendon Hooker. He's hurt. Now, C.J. Stroud and Will Levis, I believe if you drafted them, you could start them today, but you're not going to win with those guys at quarterback in year one. And I would prefer especially Stroud, but honestly, I would like both of those guys to sit on the bench behind Tannehill. So I don't know where Tannehill's going to go. They say Tannehill's available to go where? You know, if you decided in February, if you had a talk with Tannehill in February, then you could have gotten something in return for Tannehill because that's when the Buccaneers needed a quarterback. That's when the Raiders needed a quarterback. That's when the Saints needed a quarterback. That's when the Jets needed a quarterback. That's when all these teams needed a quarterback. That's when Derek Carr ended up with a $100 million contract, and Tannehill is a better player than Derek Carr. And again, you could have gotten something in return for Tannehill. Now, it wouldn't have been very good, but you could have gotten something. But you didn't. And it didn't even look like you were trying to trade Tannehill when all that went down. So why would you not do that then if in February you had the talk with Ryan? So if you were to trade Ryan Tannehill after all the quarterback spots are filled and you're just dumping $27 million in cash just to dump it, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And even let's say you draft Levis and you say, okay, we want Will Levis to start at quarterback this year. Malik is going to be the backup? I mean, you know better than that. So evaluate, I've got to take a look at it, I've got to decide, and we'll go from there. That's one thing. But it is another thing today in April, while the team is working out at the facility, while Tannehill is working out at the facility, when he's on SportsCenter and they're talking about him being available, and none of it adds up for you just to say, look, he's our quarterback. And I don't think any of these guys should start over Tannehill. I don't think any of these guys today are better than Ryan Tannehill, and that includes Bryce Young. I don't think any of these guys are better than Tannehill. So either Rand Carthon's just screwing around with everybody, and Tannehill's the quarterback, and now he's just decided that he doesn't want to play the game of just telling people what it is, or he's going to do something really stupid and trade Tannehill after Tannehill's lost all of his value. This doesn't make any sense. It's like Jeremy Fowler goes on TV and says Tannehill's available. All right, well, let's stop right there. What do we tell you when a rumor comes out like this? You got to take a big breath in. Okay. Who's he going to play for? Tampa has a quarterback. The Raiders have a quarterback. The Jets now have a quarterback. The Packers have a quarterback. The Rams have a quarterback. The Lions have a quarterback. Who doesn't have a quarterback? Even Carolina has Andy Dalton. So right now, the Texans and the Colts are the two teams out there that don't have quarterbacks. Everybody else has a quarterback. So that's the first question. Where's Tannehill going to go? 2, who's going to be your quarterback? If Tannehill is not the quarterback this year, who's going to be your quarterback? And don't say Malik. But you would think that if the Titans were even considering moving off of Tannehill, that they would have at least kept Josh Dobbs. Because it's like, okay, we moved off of Tannehill and we're going to draft a quarterback. And so then the quarterback, Levis or Stroud or whomever, he'll start. And Tannehill will be with another team. And we got a third for Tannehill. And Dobbs will be the backup. But now, if that doesn't happen, then what, Malik's going to be the quarterback? No. So where's Tannehill going to go? There's nowhere for him to go. Who's going to be your quarterback unless you draft a guy? There's nobody there that's going to be a part of it. I'm struggling to see how this all adds up. And yet, Rand Carthon would not shut it down today. I was surprised that Rand Carthon wouldn't shut it down today. I was also surprised that Rand Carthon got up there and admitted that they asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut. And I was a little surprised that nobody asked him why they asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut. Because I'm still kind of trying to get to the bottom of that one. But I found it odd that today, I mean, we're almost in May. The team is working out in the facility. And Rand Carthon just says, I talked to Ryan, and that's that. I also like the whole, if you didn't hear it from me, or you didn't hear it from Vrabel, or you didn't hear it, then I tell the players not to worry about it. It's not true. It's not a... Dude, nobody thinks like that. I mean, if I heard from somebody, I mean, I could hear from somebody across the street if they said, hey, I hear you're getting fired. I mean, that's going to bother me, even if it's not true. Now, at that point, I would call up and say, hold on, am I getting fired? But that's how a lot of these things work. You can say, hey, I don't want the players to read into this, but they know it's a business. So I don't know what Rand Carthon's getting at. 615-737-1025. Maybe the conspiracy theory about C.J. Stroud and the tank, that the tank is in, and that C.J. Stroud purposely tanked the S2 cognition test in order to avoid the Texans and the Colts. Maybe that's part of it. And they'll release Tannehill and make Stroud the quarterback. Just keep adding to the conspiracy theory. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones. 615-737-1025. Plus, how big of a deal is the S2 cognition test, and what Rand Carthon said about it, I found a little fascinating. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game has an all-star lineup Monday through Friday. Batting first at 6 a.m., it's Robby and Rexroad.
Yeah, you take that. You take that. Take 80% of that.
Followed by Chase and Michelle at 9.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I need my caffeine so much.
Then it's Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace at 11.
Yep, green light, let's go.
You've got a lot of options.
He say, she say.
And bringing it home at 2, Jared Stillman for Stillman and Company.
That guy will be a good coach.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, what's up? Teron Davenport here for Superbook Sports. Baseball season is back, and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the best sports wagering app around, with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in Las Vegas. Plus, check this. Get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-889-9789.
312 Pizza Company is your spot for the best Chicago-style eats right here in Nashville. From thin crust pizza to deep dish pizza to Italian beef sandwiches and Chicago dogs. Doesn't get much better than that. Until now. 312 Pizza Company is now serving up their award-winning pizza by the slice. All day, every day. Don't have time to wait for a full pie? No problem. Get a slice instead. Order a full pie but want a little more? Add another slice. Do it. Honestly, just go get a slice. 312 Pizza Company. Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria. Go get a slice.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Rick, how do you feel about the S2 cognition test as far as the quarterback position is concerned?
So this is my first experience with the S2, so I'm still learning it, myself. So there's still a space for me to grow. I know we use it, And we're, working through it. We met with them last week so I can get a better understanding of how to use it, as a part of our analytical component, to evaluate a player. But myself, I'm still learning. It's my first experience with it. So I've only, really been diving into it over the last month or so.
Okay, that was Rand Carthon today. The big story, C.J. Stroud reportedly is in the 18th percentile on the S2 cognition test, which is not the Wonderlic. It is a test that tests your impulse control, your reaction, your processing, all of those things that a quarterback has to do at the line of scrimmage. And apparently, according to Bob McGinn, who talked to a league executive, that 100% of the time, you're not a good quarterback if you flunked the S2 cognition test. Rand Carthon pleads ignorance as far as how much it means to him because, hey, I just got here. I'm just now working with it. Ian, do we buy that Rand Carthon just started working here and he doesn't really know all that much about S2?
He probably knows a little bit more than he played along in that clip, I would imagine.
Of course we're not buying that, especially when his team drafted the best S2 quarterback last year with the last pick, and that guy actually played pretty well in Brock Purdy. So I think the Titans, I think that was a very good job by Rand Carthon to elude any sense one way or another about how he feels about that test and what insight that may lead into how they feel about C.J. Stroud. Or if they're one of the teams and the Titans do have the S2 numbers, if the Titans are one of the teams that would take him off the board like the executive told Bob McGinn when the 18th percentile report came out. Now, again, one of the co-founders of S2 was on Pat McAfee today and said that what they're hearing in the media is just completely false and ridiculous. But what I would argue is, where is C.J. Stroud's agent coming out and saying, no? Where is that? So it makes me think that's true. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. JB is up next on Ryan Tannehill. Thank you for calling. What's up, JB?
Hey, man, thanks for taking the call. First of all, I don't think we're going to trade Ryan Tannehill, but if we did, I think there may be two teams that we'd have the option of maybe trading them to, and I think one, maybe the Washington Commanders, and then maybe the Atlanta Falcons, just to kind of give them a little bridge quarterback if they think that Ritter or whoever it was they drafted last year may be the guy. But I think that may be the only two teams.
So thank you for your call, JB. Washington is fascinating to me because with a new owner, I wonder if they want to hold off on making quarterback decisions. That's not a big one if you trade for Tannehill. If you're Washington, now they seem convinced with one game that Sam Howell is good. I struggle with that one a little bit, but they seem convinced with it. The Falcons, I'm convinced the Falcons like Desmond Ritter. I am convinced of it. It's one of those things where your actions tell me more than what your words say. But when the Lamar Jackson thing happened, everybody kept saying, well, if Lamar Jackson gets out to the market, Atlanta will do whatever it takes to get Lamar. And the Falcons are like, nah, we like Desmond Ritter. And all those quarterbacks that have run Arthur's system that came available after last year, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, I think Derek Carr can run the system. All those other quarterbacks, not interested. I don't think Atlanta's interested in going quarterback. I think they like Ritter. I talked to Rick Spielman last week, former general manager of the Vikings, and he was like, I think Atlanta likes Ritter. I asked him if Atlanta at 8 was a team the Titans needed to be worried about when it came to teams that could take a quarterback, because I think we all know Carolina at 1, Houston at 2, Indianapolis at 4 probably are all thinking quarterback. But then what about the Raiders at 7? Now, I don't think the Seahawks would go quarterback. I don't think the Lions at 6 would go quarterback. Maybe if Stroud falls and they don't care about the S2 test, maybe they'd take him. But the Raiders certainly seem to be a quarterback-ish team. Chicago and Philadelphia are not. So I don't think we have to worry about them. But I was wondering about Atlanta, and Rick Spielman said, I think they're going with Ritter. And I would agree. I think they're going with Desmond Ritter. I think Atlanta at 8, if one of these guys falls, and Tom Pelissero of NFL Network talked to all these scouts and released a story on Friday, and he went on NFL radio Friday to talk about his story, and he said those 4 guys are going to be gone by the 12th pick. He goes, I don't make predictions, but those 4 guys are going to be gone by the 12th pick. So if that's the case, I could see Atlanta as a real trade-out contender because they've got a lot of pieces. And if they wanted to go receiver, Mark Dominic, the old general manager of Tampa Bay, said their biggest need right now is receiver. And yes, they have Drake London, but they need another weapon. And it's like if they want to go receiver with Smith and Jigba, you're better off to trade out and get some more assets, and then you're taking the risk on the Smith and Jigba hamstring, but it's okay because you got other assets with that pick. So I think that's more of a team that the Titans could trade to, not a team that would take a quarterback. I think they like Ritter. But maybe they won't. Gunner texts into the text line and says, Will Levis only played 2 seasons at Kentucky, so the comment is irrelevant. Levis was handicapped behind a terrible offensive line, an awful offensive coordinator, and his only reliable receivers were 2 true freshmen. I would say, I don't know, the extent of the receivers as far as what Will Levis had or didn't have, I just know they weren't very good. I watched the tape against Georgia, and he had this one tight end, number 85, and I don't want to call anybody out, but he had this one tight end, number 85, and Will Levis just put the ball right in his hands. And when he put the ball right in his hands, they just went right in the hands and right out of the hands. And that happened like 3 times in that one game. And I watched that, and I thought, this guy sucks. And then one of the guys, the offensive coordinator, they were playing Georgia, and they tried to run the ball a lot. And I think it was because Levis was kind of hurt. And so that took away his running game. But there was a 3rd and 1 against Georgia, and they tried to run the ball out of the shotgun, and they didn't gain any yards. And I'm like, dude, they've got Jalen Carter. And I think at that point, they still had the Smith kid. Like, you're not running on Georgia. You're not going to just run the ball up the middle on the Georgia Bulldogs. And then it was 4th and 1, and they tried to run it again. And I'm like, put the ball in Levis's hands. And they ran these bubble screens where they would throw it to the wide receiver, and the tight end was supposed to clear out the DB, and the tight end kept missing the DB. And I kept thinking, how many times are you going to run that play until you realize that the tight end is not going to block the DB, and you're going to lose 2 yards every time you throw it? So I walked away from that game thinking, man, this play caller for Kentucky that everybody hates. And I still follow a lot of people that work in Louisville and cover Kentucky from when I was on the radio there. And I'm like, these people hate this offensive coordinator. And then when I watched that one Georgia game, I was like, now I see why they hate that coordinator. At that point, I understood. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. LD texts in and says Tannehill to Tampa. That's not happening. Baker Mayfield is the quarterback in Tampa. This is what I think is going to happen with Tampa. This is actually kind of funny. So, Tom Brady's with the Patriots. They're trying to win the Super Bowl. They lose at home to the Titans in the playoffs. They get beat in the wild card round. And Brady goes to Tampa, and the Patriots have basically a reset year with Cam Newton as the quarterback. That's what it was. Belichick says it was about the cap. The cap's fake. But it was to reset everything in place and, get going. Tampa has Tom Brady at quarterback. They go to the wild card round of the playoffs. They lose. Tom Brady leaves. I think this year's a reset year. You're not putting $27 million in at quarterback in a reset year. I think they signed Baker Mayfield for the reset year. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Peter King had a little nugget in his Football Morning in America that I want to get to, plus what the betting market is saying about who will be available with the Titans pick. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hi, I'm Jussie Saros. And this is Smash Roll.
Now here's a try off to the side. What a stop made by Jussie Saros there.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
The Beach Boys. Live in concert. May 25th, 26th, and 27th at Schermerhorn Symphony Center. Performing with the Nashville Symphony. The Beach Boys return to the stage. Tickets on sale now at NashvilleSymphony.org. Don't miss the Beach Boys live with the Nashville Symphony.
Golfers, tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Titleist. Check out the new Pro V1 golf balls designed for longer distance, more consistency, and unrivaled control. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and elevate your game with the new TSR Woods, engineered faster, longer, and straighter. Come in and get custom fit for free today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, unmatched expertise, unmatched service.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Bite a Bit Thai and Sushi in the heart of East Nashville. Get half off a $30 gift card while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Featuring all the best Thai food, sushi, and cocktails, plus an amazing bar and environment. You can eat a bit and bite a bit with this week's half-off deal. Check out biteabitnashville.com. That's Bite a Bit in East Nashville. Half off at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
What's up, Nashville? This is Stephen A. Smith. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Then they have Malik Willis. This one's interesting because last year he generated some first-round buzz, ended up falling to the third round, and his first year did not go so well. Got benched for Josh Dobbs later in the year. So he's an option for them, but most people I talked to around the league would be surprised if he's the starter next year.
Okay, that was Jeremy Fowler yesterday when he was saying that Tannehill was going to, that Tannehill was available. He also says a lot of people around the league I talked to would be surprised if Malik Willis was the starter. Well, no, duh. I mean, did you watch the Texans game? Now, I know he didn't, because nobody, unless you're one of us, and, you don't want to say you're contractually obligated to watch the Titans, but, we all watch the Titans, and we all saw that Titans-Texans game, and my goodness gracious, was he terrible. I should say, did you see the Chiefs game? So Peter King's Football Morning in America came out, and he has the Titans trading up to 3 and drafting C.J. Stroud in his only mock draft that he does, which, again, if the S2 test is true, like if that's real, and I can't take him with the third pick. But, again, it's Peter King's mock draft, not my mock draft. Peter King did nail it when the Titans took Isaiah Wilson for whatever that's worth. So he has the Titans going C.J. Stroud. But he writes in his mock draft, quote, the Titans, who I hear have lost faith in Malik Willis, might be in a unique position here. I bet they have lost faith in Malik Willis. Did they ever really have faith in Malik Willis? They took him 86th. They took him after they took Roger McCreary, after they took Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, after they took Treylon Burks. I mean, I know they traded up to get to 86 and take Malik, but it wasn't like the Titans were investing, a high-end pick in Malik Willis like, say, the Arizona Cardinals did with Josh Rosen, only to dump him a year later. I mean, it was a third-round pick. They wanted to see what he had. They saw he stinks, move on. I don't think there needs to be any more discussion other than that. Matt is up next on Ryan Tannehill. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Matt?
Hey, what's going on, man? I just wanted to touch on the Ryan Tannehill and actually the S2 scores. Does anybody know what Malik's S2 score was?
No.
Nobody knows? Okay, I didn't think so. Yeah, but as far as the Ryan Tannehill goes, I don't think that you can really – I just don't think there's anywhere left to dump him now. If you did it earlier in the year, like you said, yeah, of course, go ahead, get something out of him and move on. But I think now we're too late and too close to the start of the season to kind of shoot ourselves in the foot pretty much.
Well, who's going to play quarterback for you? Thank you for the call, Matt. Who's going to play quarterback for you? And I know it's like, well, if we draft C.J. Stroud, Jared – and I do wonder if the tank is on with C.J. Stroud, where C.J. has tanked his draft process, and you are going to trade with Atlanta or Seattle or somebody like that to be able to draft C.J. and then maybe, okay, fine. But if you're going to do that, I still want Ryan Tannehill to be the quarterback. In fact, this is perfect world. And Ran Carthon said he and Tannehill had a discussion in February and that discussion would stay between them. And I don't know what that discussion was. But I don't think it was we're going to draft a quarterback and you're going to sit on the bench or you're going to battle it out with the quarterback. But I do wonder if the Titans were to draft Levis or Stroud. Now, if you draft Richardson, he goes to the bench, and they better not ruin him the way they ruined Malik Willis, although Malik is certainly not the prospect that Anthony Richardson is. And there is some thought with some of the people I've talked to that Richardson could actually play in the NFL right now, though I wouldn't do it. But if it's Stroud or Levis, could they beat out Tannehill in training camp? Well, I'd say this. If you're sitting there, if you're Ran Carthon, you're Mike Vrabel, you're Tim Kelly, and you're watching training camp, and Tannehill is the starter, and you'll know really quickly whether or not these guys are ready. Whether or not. This reminds me, Philadelphia had Sam Bradford as their starting quarterback in 2016. And they drafted Carson Wentz number 2, and Chase Daniel was the backup. And the thought was, because Wentz was coming from North Dakota State, the thought was that he's going to sit the bench. Bradford will start, Daniel will back him up, and then Wentz will be the third guy, and he'll be inactive. But then they got to training camp, and Carson Wentz was advanced enough that they turned around and they traded Sam Bradford when Teddy Bridgewater got hurt. And they just said, okay, Chase Daniel will still be the 2, but Carson Wentz will be the 1. If you get to training camp and all of a sudden you've decided Will Levis is ready to play or that C.J. Stroud is your quarterback and he's ready to play, then I could see you doing something similar to that. Where if somebody needs a quarterback last minute, somebody tore an ACL, somebody something, Arizona, something like that, then you turn around and you flip off Ryan Tannehill to somebody else, and you get a little pick in return, and then C.J. Stroud or whomever's your quarterback. But that's not a decision to be made now. That's not a decision even to be made after the draft. That's a decision to be made in training camp. And that's not what the report was. The report was now, where could Ryan Tannehill go? What I do wonder, though, if when they're deciding, okay, this is who we want, this is the quarterback situation, what about Arizona? We haven't mentioned them as a landing spot for Tannehill. I don't know who their offensive coordinator is, so I don't know. I know Jonathan Gannon, I think he's kind of a doofus. He's their head coach. But Monty Ossenfort, I do wonder maybe if Arizona could use Tannehill for the 1 year while Kyler Murray recovers from the knee. But I don't know. Or if they're just good.
Drew Petzing?
I don't know who that is.
I don't know either.
Is he from the Eagles?
I'm not sure.
So that I'm not, completely aware of. By the way, Chase just texted me that Mark Dominic, former NFL general manager, is going on with him tomorrow at 9:30. I am a big Mark Dominic fan. That will be very educational. I think it'll be a very educational interview. All right, so I think this is fascinating to me. I looked it up this morning. Maybe the odds have changed since this morning, but this was as of 10 a.m. FanDuel Sportsbook, that's my official sportsbook app. That was FanDuel's, for each spot, the favorite guy to go, the betting favorite. So not like this is FanDuel's opinion. This is the betting odds. So they have the top 10, which makes great fodder for this show because the Titans pick 11th. So here's the top best odds for FanDuel according to where they think each guy's going to go.
Number 1.
Bryce Young, Alabama, and I believe he's minus 2,000. So that is, terrible odds. They think it's obvious Bryce Young's going number 1. I think we all think it's obvious. No surprise there.
Number 2.
Will Levis at Kentucky is the favorite to go number 2 overall. I believe this morning Tyree Wilson was right behind him, and then it was Will Anderson. But as far as the betting favorite to the Texans at 2 or with that pick, and that's what we have to remember. It's not exactly when you make that bet, it's not who you're betting is going to take Will Levis. It's what spot is he going to go. They have him as the betting favorite to go number 2 overall to the Texans.
Number 3.
C.J. Stroud and Tyree Wilson are both tied at plus 270 for the 3rd overall pick. So my guess is if somebody trades with Arizona, the betting logic is they'll take C.J. Stroud. If Arizona uses that pick, it will be Tyree Wilson, or at least that's what the betting market thinks. I am a big Tyree Wilson fan, so he and C.J. Stroud are tied at plus 270 to go 3rd.
Number 4.
Now, here's what's crazy. Will Levis was the favorite to go number 2, and he is also the favorite to go number 4. Now, Stroud and Richardson are right behind Will Levis, and Richardson this morning was plus 300 to go 4. I think that's good value because I've thought all along that the Indianapolis Colts want Anthony Richardson. I think it's a total smokescreen how they're telling everybody, we want to pick at 4 and we want to pick Will Levis. And I've thought of that as like, no, they really don't. You don't tell everybody who you want to pick. You tell everybody who you don't want to pick. So my guess is that they don't want to pick Will Levis. So they're telling everybody they do want to pick Will Levis. So Anthony Richardson at plus 300, I wouldn't be against. But Levis is the favorite at 2 and at 4 as of 10 a.m. this morning with FanDuel Sportsbook.
Number 5.
Will Anderson, Alabama. Now that's Seattle's pick, which I'm a little surprised by because everybody on TV tells me that Will Anderson is the next J.J. Watt combined with Ray Lewis, combined with Ed Reed, combined with Bruce Smith. But FanDuel Sportsbook, the betting market, says he's the favorite to go 5th.
Number 6.
I was shocked by this one. Devin Witherspoon, Illinois, the corner. Now, that's the pick that Detroit holds. It wouldn't surprise me if Detroit tries to trade out of that spot. But Devin Witherspoon, the corner at Illinois, is the guy that is currently the odds-on favorite to go number 6 overall, a pick currently held by Detroit.
Number 7.
Christian Gonzalez, the corner out of Oregon. Again, a little surprising. Now, I don't know what the Raiders team needs are or anything like that. And the people that I know in the NFL say Christian Gonzalez is really good. That they think Christian Gonzalez is going to be a high first-round pick. 7 would be high. That they think he's awesome. But we talk quarterback in that spot a lot. Now, maybe Gonzalez is there because they think that the Raiders will be one of these teams that trades to 3 and takes C.J. Stroud, and then Gonzalez would be available for whomever at 7. But right now, that's the Raiders' pick, and they have Gonzalez with the best odds at 7.
Number 8.
Here's a curveball, which I've actually been calling for. Ian, back me up on this one. 8 is Atlanta's pick. The odds-on favorite to go 8 is Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas.
That would make sense.
I have been calling that. This is why I think Atlanta is a prime partner to trade with you from 11 to 8 if a quarterback that you like is available. Because the 2 players that I could see Arthur Smith really liking are Jackson Smith and Jigba and Bijan Robinson. And if you're Atlanta, I think Bijan Robinson makes all the sense in the world. Because what you can't do is you can't tell me that this guy is a generational runner, that this guy at Texas is unbelievable. Scouts, Inc., they have 2 players that have grades of 95, Bryce Young and Bijan Robinson. And I know Arthur Smith's offense, and so do you all. And they've got the receiver in Drake London. They've got the tight end in Kyle Pitts. I'm sure they'd like another receiver, but the best Arthur Smith offense, especially working in this young quarterback, was handing the ball to Derrick Henry over and over and over again in 2019 and 2020. Well, if this guy is a generational talent at runner, why would you not take him to benefit your young quarterback, benefit your receiver, benefit your tight end, benefit your defense, and run the hell out of them? That's what I would do, especially with Philadelphia there at 9, and a lot of people say Philadelphia likes Bijan Robinson. But every mock draft has Bijan Robinson at like 16. And the betting odds are saying Atlanta at 8, keep an eye on Bijan Robinson.
Number 9.
Now, this was a shocking tie. Jalen Carter at Georgia, which I don't think we're surprised by. In fact, if nothing else, we're surprised if Jalen Carter is still there at 9. And Darnell Wright, the right tackle out of Tennessee, are both plus 300. The Philadelphia Eagles, don't they have Lane Johnson at right tackle? Oh, excuse me. No. It's Chicago at 9. So I guess Chicago needs offensive line help. But Darnell Wright, again, it's one scout's opinion, but they said he's lazy. And you're going to take him at 9? He's got better odds than Paris Johnson and better odds than Peter Skoronski and better odds than all the other guys? Now, Carter, I get. And I got to believe if Carter's available at 9, and I know Chicago feels like they need to get help for Justin Fields, but let me say this. I did not feel Will Anderson in any big game Alabama played this year. I felt Jalen Carter in the games that Georgia played. It'd be hard for me to not take Jalen Carter.
Number 10.
The Eagles pick at 10, the odds-on favorite, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, Peter Skoronski at plus 250. So those are the betting favorites in each spot. Bryce Young, Will Levis, C.J. Stroud or Tyree Wilson at 3, Will Levis at 4, Will Anderson at 5, Devin Witherspoon at 6, Christian Gonzalez at 7, Bijan Robinson at 8, Jalen Carter or Darnell Wright at 9, Peter Skoronski at 10. So if that's the case, according to Scouts Inc., which is, Todd McShay's group with ESPN, here would be the remaining first-round players that would be available to the Titans at 11 if, in fact, that's the way the board goes. And I would say that since Levis is the favorite at both 2 and 4, let's go ahead and take Stroud off the board with the 4th pick since, again, Levis has the highest odds. And let's keep Darnell Wright on the board and say Jalen Carter goes with that pick because if you take Darnell Wright over Jalen Carter, I think you're stupid. So here's who would be left for the Titans, according to these betting odds. Anthony Richardson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Dalton Kincaid, Paris Johnson Jr., Broderick Jones, Darnell Wright, Lucas Van Ness, Kalijah Cansey, I forget his first name, Smith, the pass rusher from Georgia, Nolan Smith, Trey Flowers, Michael Meyer, the tight end at Notre Dame, and Emmanuel Forbes, the corner from Mississippi State. Well, if I'm on the clock then, Richardson. I'm running that card to the podium. If Anthony Richardson is available at 11, I'm sprinting that card to the podium. I may cry. We'll be live at Twin Peaks on Thursday for the draft out in Cool Springs. And if that's the board, if the board shakes out that way, and Anthony Richardson's available with the 11th pick, and the Titans end up taking Broderick Jones, I think part of me would cry. On the air, I think I might actually cry. So I just found that fascinating this morning about what the betting market is saying about who's going to go where. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll try to hit some more phones. But coming up next, I was embarrassed. And I don't even root for this team. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff.
It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
The choice is yours, Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to jarrettfire.com. JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
Interest rates are up, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Don't sweat it out another summer. Replace your old unit fast before new regulations increase prices up to 20%. Get a new unit today at today's price and receive up to $1,500 off. Or get 18 months of no payments so your first payment's not due till fall of 2024. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Book your appointment now at springhillac.com. That's springhillac.com. And happy spring.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Bon appetit. Take some Titans.
Derrick Henry.
Some Preds.
Roman Yossi.
Even some hoops.
Light fires. Wow.
Put it in a blender. And what do you have? Chase and Michelle.
Pretty incredible.
Call or text and weigh in.
The fastest 2 hours in sports radio. Weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Another mentally weak individual. I'm not calling mentally weak literally, but I'm saying somebody that's exhibited mental weakness. Dylan Brooks, you chirping, okay? And then when you get yourself ejected after y'all got blitzed in the first quarter, after the game, you don't want to talk to anybody. It's amazing to me how these guys, it just shows a flagrant level of mental weakness when you're chirping and then all of a sudden you got a bad day and you don't want to answer for the stuff that you created. So Dylan Brooks and Julius Randle are in the same sentence, in the same ilk right now. But as it pertains to the Lakers, they have control of this series. They win the night, they win the series. They lose tonight, the series is in jeopardy because you do not want to give Memphis that momentum. They cannot go back to Memphis tied 2-2 and think that's going to be a good thing for them. It will not be.
Stephen A. Smith this morning. So I don't know about you guys, and you all know me. I can be a little anti-NBA, but I'm not even a Memphis Grizzlies fan. But all these people text in, and I say all these people, it's like 5 people, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's the same people. But they say things like, when are you going to talk about the Grizzlies? And I'm like, when people in Nashville begin to care, then I will talk about the Grizzlies. And I just don't think people around here care that much about the Memphis Grizzlies. Ian, do you care about the Memphis Grizzlies?
Not really.
See? I just don't think people care about them. So Saturday night, they played the Lakers. And I watched the game. Now, part of the reason why I watched the game was I was on XM yesterday. So, I got to watch basketball, which sometimes pains me. And, all these producers, they put on basketball guests. And so it's like, well, I guess I better watch some basketball. Even though I don't think people care about basketball that much. We get no phone calls, by the way, about basketball, around the country. When we talk football, we get phone calls at the yin-yang. We talk basketball, not so much. But I digress. So I'm watching the game. And again, I don't root for the Grizzlies, but I certainly don't root for LeBron. And I do not like LeBron. I used to like LeBron. Now I don't like LeBron. I don't like the China stuff. I don't like the telling the police officers what to do stuff. I don't like LeBron's attitude, and I'm anti-LeBron. So I saw Dylan Brooks, this nobody from nowhere, who called LeBron James old after they won Game 2. And I thought to myself, oh, my God. What is the matter with you? And so LeBron goes up to him right before the game. In fact, LeBron was asked about it after the game about, what are those words you said in private? LeBron's like, I didn't say that in private. I said that in public. All those cameras were there. There was nothing private about that, which I think was LeBron's way of saying, no, I wanted you all to see that I was going to address this man. But then the Grizzlies got housed. They scored 9 points in the first quarter. They got punked. Here's what happened. Dillon Brooks, who's a nobody in the NBA, and in 5 or 6 years, we'll never remember Dillon Brooks. We'll be like, you remember Dillon Brooks? Oh, yeah. He's the guy that tried to trash talk LeBron. Yeah. It's like Nick Anderson trying to trash talk Michael Jordan when he said 45 is not 23. And Horace Grant said when he did that, oh, no, why'd you do that? And so Dillon Brooks chirps LeBron. So they come out, and the Lakers just blitz them. And it wasn't just LeBron. It was everybody on that team. It was Anthony Davis. It was D'Angelo Russell. It was Hillbilly Kobe. It was all those guys out there that were just lighting them up. The Grizzlies couldn't buy a basket. What had happened was this. The Lakers were so enraged by the audacity that loser Dillon Brooks would have to talk on LeBron James that they decided, no, we're going to have LeBron's back and we're going to dominate you. And the Grizzlies were too weak to be able to carry Dillon Brooks' trash talking. I was embarrassed. Then the guy hits LeBron in the groin in the third quarter to get ejected while they're getting their butts kicked. Embarrassing. And I'm not even a Grizzlies fan. And so they play tonight, and you heard Stephen A. Smith say that if the Lakers win tonight at home and they take a 3-1 lead, series is over. Ian, I think I'm rooting for the Lakers.
Wow.
I do not find, other than the fact that they're from Tennessee, and I don't even really like Memphis, to be honest with you. Other than the fact that they're from Tennessee, I don't see a single redeeming quality with this Memphis Grizzlies team. I would have said Ja Morant. I was very excited last year about Ja Morant.
Fun to watch.
But I can't deal with his antics off the court, going to finish line because his mom got mad at the person waiting on him for shoes, and they threatened the guy, and they one of his buddies, I think it was, ended up hitting the mall security guard. The gun at the club? No. I can't root for that. And then Ja Morant, after he hurt his hand in game 1, talked about after all I've been through. All you've been through? You brought the gun to the club. You went on Instagram Live. You showed the gun. What are you talking about, all you've been through? You did that to you. So I have a hard time getting on the Ja Morant bandwagon, though I do believe in redemption. But I just can't with this team. They think they're going to talk trash to LeBron James. Dude, you are not a pimple on his rear end. And he's just talking trash. And my favorite part about it was when I watched what the Lakers did, all I could think about was that scene in The Last Dance where B.J. Armstrong hit the shot and he turned over to the Bulls bench and he flexed on Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson. And by the way, we got to get to what Phil Jackson said too at some point. But Scottie Pippen and B.J. Armstrong, and Michael was like, they asked him, what did you think about it? And it wasn't the media, it was his teammates in the behind-the-scenes stuff. And Michael had a cigar in his mouth. He goes, it's easy to talk. We'll see if all that trash talking starts when it's even score. That's the sign of a real man. We can talk when it's even score. Or you can talk when you're behind. That's the sign of a real man. It's easy to talk when you got all those points. I'm thinking to myself, that's what Dillon Brooks did. You won a game. You felt yourself for beating LeBron James. You talked the talk. And then LeBron went to you when it was even score. And he lit you up. And then they embarrassed you. And not only did they embarrass you, but they embarrassed me too, being from the state of Tennessee. And I'm not even a Grizzlies fan. So to answer your question, the 5 people who text in all throughout the winter, when are you going to talk about the Grizzlies? Why do you not talk about the Grizzlies? Because your team is not ready for prime time. Because you guys are a bunch of phonies. And you've got an opportunity tonight to prove it against the Lakers and come back and make this a series. And maybe people in Nashville, if you get to game 6 or 7 with LeBron, will care. But I'm sorry. You guys are losers. The Memphis Grizzlies are just like their city. Losers. And we are not going to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies on this show because they can't win enough to get people here in Nashville to care. That's going to do it for us. Good luck to the Grizzlies tonight. I think I'm rooting for the Lakers, Ian. And you know I don't like LeBron.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, but hey, I'll probably still root for Memphis, but
I'm not. Go Lakers tonight. That's it for us. We're out of here all draft all week. ESPN Radio's coming up next.